On a frozen Christmas Eve in Vermont, billionaire CEO Ariana Cole's luxury sedan died on a deserted mountain road, along with her last excuse to avoid the holidays she'd been running from for 15 years. What she didn't expect was the dented tow truck, the grease-stained mechanic with kind eyes, and his daughter's handmade Santa hat that would crack open the fortress she'd built around her heart. Sometimes the greatest repair job isn't on an engine, it's on a soul that forgot how to feel. Stay with me until the end and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The snow fell like accusations. Each flake that landed on the windshield of Ariana Cole's midnight blue Aston Martin seemed to whisper the same thing her assistant had said 3 hours ago. You're making a mistake. But Ariana had built a $3 billion empire on the foundation of calculated risks and ironclad certainty, so she'd smiled that practiced smile, the one that ended conversations, and driven away from her Manhattan penthouse toward the Vermont property she'd inherited and never visited. Now, at 11:47 on Christmas Eve, that certainty was cooling as fast as her luxury sedan's engine. "Come on," she muttered, turning the key for the 7th time. The dashboard lights flickered weakly, a dying heartbeat in the mechanical chest of German engineering. Not tonight. Any night but tonight. The engine offered no response except silence. Ariana pressed her forehead against the steering wheel, leather-gloved hands gripping tight enough to hurt. Through the windshield, Vermont's Route 100 stretched empty in both directions, a ribbon of black asphalt slowly disappearing under fresh powder. Pine trees crowded the roadside like silent witnesses to her stupidity. No streetlights, no houses, no cell signal. She'd checked 3 times, watching those useless bars stubbornly display nothing. The temperature gauge on her dashboard read 14 degrees Fahrenheit. She pulled her cashmere coat tighter, suddenly aware that $1,000 fabric meant nothing against mountain cold. The heating had died with the engine, and already her breath was visible in small clouds. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, or maybe it was just wind through the trees. Either way, it sounded like loneliness given voice. "Brilliant, Ariana," she said to the empty car. "Absolutely brilliant decision-making." Her phone lay useless in the cup holder, its sleek surface reflecting the pale moonlight. No signal meant no GPS, no roadside assistance, no connection to the world where she was Ariana Cole, CEO of Tech Vista Industries, the woman Forbes had called the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley in last month's profile. Out here, she was just another stranded driver on a road that probably saw more deer than people. She'd left the city at 8, ignoring her assistant's concerns about the weather forecast. Ignoring, too, the pile of Christmas party invitations on her desk, each one a reminder that she'd spent another year building wealth instead of relationships. The drive was supposed to be simple: 4 hours to the property in Maple Falls, sign the papers her lawyer had prepared, authorize the sale, and return to Manhattan by morning. Clean, efficient, no sentiment required. That was before the snow started falling harder, before she missed the turnoff because her GPS lost signal, before the check engine light began its ominous amber glow. Ariana checked her watch. 11:51. In 9 minutes, it would be Christmas. She'd be spending it in a dead car on a frozen road, alone except for whatever animals prowled these mountains. There was poetry in that, she supposed. The woman who'd spent 15 years avoiding Christmas finally trapped in its most isolated embrace. She was reaching for her phone again, knowing it was pointless but needing to do something, when headlights appeared in her rearview mirror. At first she thought it was hope playing tricks, her mind conjuring rescue from desperation. But the lights grew stronger, and beneath them materialized the battered shape of a truck, its engine growling like something that had survived too many winters to quit now. Not a luxury vehicle, not a state trooper. A tow truck, old enough that she could hear its rattling chassis over the wind. The truck pulled up beside her, and Ariana's first instinct was caution. This was exactly the scenario her security team warned about. Isolated roads, vulnerable positions, strangers with unclear intentions. She'd taken 3 self-defense courses since the attempted mugging in 2019. Her hand moved to the door lock. Then the driver's side door of the tow truck opened, and a man stepped out into the snow. He was tall, maybe 6'2", wearing a canvas work jacket that had seen better decades and jeans worn pale at the knees. A knit cap covered dark hair, and when he walked toward her car, his movements had the careful competence of someone who'd navigated icy roads his whole life. His face, illuminated by her headlights, showed maybe 35 years of life, with crow's feet that suggested he smiled more than he frowned. He knocked on her window, not aggressive, just a solid tap to get her attention. Ariana lowered it 3 inches, letting in a blast of cold that made her gasp. "Oi, evening," he said, and his voice was exactly what she expected from someone who looked like he fixed things for a living, rough around the edges but fundamentally kind. "You okay in there?" "My car died," Ariana said, then immediately felt stupid for stating the obvious. "No cell signal. I've been here about 20 minutes. Any longer and you'd be in trouble." He glanced at her sedan with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen 1,000 broken vehicles. "That's a V12, right? Beautiful machine. What happened?" "I don't know. The engine just stopped. All the warning lights came on at once." He nodded like this made perfect sense. "Probably the cold. These European engines don't always love Vermont winters, especially the newer ones with all their computers. Mind if I take a look?" Ariana hesitated. Every instinct honed by years in corporate warfare screamed caution. But what was the alternative? Freeze to death maintaining her paranoia? "Please," she said, "pop the hood for me." She pulled the release and he disappeared toward the front of her car. Through the windshield, she watched him lift the hood and peer into the engine compartment, pulling out a small flashlight from his pocket. He worked quietly, efficiently, occasionally adjusting something she couldn't see. After 3 minutes, he returned to her window. "Your fuel line's frozen," he said. "The temperature dropped too fast and there was probably moisture in your tank. It'll need to thaw somewhere warm before she'll run again." He paused, studying her face with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You heading somewhere specific or just passing through?" "Maple Falls," Ariana said. "I have property there." "Well, inherited property. I was going to—" She stopped, realizing she was explaining herself to a complete stranger. "How far is it?" "About 12 miles, but in this snow, on foot, you wouldn't make it." He glanced back at his tow truck, seemed to make a decision. "I can tow you to my garage in town. It's not fancy, but it's warm, and I can get your car running by morning." "How much?" The question came automatically, the language she'd spoken for so long that haggling was reflex. But something flickered across his face. Not offense exactly, but a subtle disappointment that made her feel suddenly small. "Let's worry about getting you somewhere safe first," he said quietly. "Money can wait till you're not freezing." Ariana felt heat rise to her cheeks that had nothing to do with temperature. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "It's okay." He offered a small smile. "I'm Logan, by the way. Logan Wells. And before you ask, yes, I'm a licensed mechanic. No, I'm not a serial killer, and yes, my truck is safe enough to get us into town." Despite everything, Ariana almost laughed. "Ariana Cole." "Nice to meet you, Ariana Cole." He said her name like it was just a name, nothing more. No recognition flickering in his eyes, no change in his demeanor. "You want to grab anything from your car? Once I hook it up, you'll be riding with me." She gathered her purse, her phone, her leather briefcase with the property documents, the essentials of her life fitting easily into 3 bags. When she opened the car door fully, the cold hit her like a physical force, stealing her breath. Her heeled boots, appropriate for Manhattan sidewalks, absurd for Vermont snow, immediately sank 3 inches into powder. "Whoa, careful." Logan's hand caught her elbow as she stumbled. "Those boots weren't made for this." "I wasn't planning on a winter hike," Ariana said through chattering teeth. "Clearly," but his tone held amusement, not judgment. "Come on, let's get you in the truck." He guided her around to the passenger side, and when she pulled open the door, warmth spilled out like a gift. The interior of the tow truck was ancient but meticulously maintained. Patched seats, a dashboard held together with determination, and hanging from the rearview mirror, a small wooden ornament shaped like a snowflake. But what stopped Ariana mid-step was the little girl. She was maybe 7 or 8, curled up in the back seat beneath a pile of blankets, fast asleep. A red Santa hat sat tilted on her head, and her small hands clutched a stuffed reindeer worn soft by love. Her face was peaceful, completely unaware that her father was out in a snowstorm rescuing stranded strangers. "That's Maya," Logan said softly, following Ariana's gaze. "She insisted on coming, said Santa might need help tonight." He shook his head with the fond exasperation of a parent who'd lost that argument. Fell asleep about an hour ago. She'll wake up when we start moving, but she's good at going back to sleep. Ariana climbed into the truck carefully, suddenly hyper-aware of her own noise. The seat was warm. Logan must have left the heat running, and when she closed the door, the howling wind reduced to a distant whisper. Logan worked quickly outside, connecting chains to her Aston Martin with practiced efficiency. Through the side mirror, Ariana watched him move through the snow like it was his natural element, never rushing but never wasting motion. There was something calming about his competence, the way he handled machinery like old friends. 5 minutes later, he climbed into the driver's seat, bringing a swirl of snowflakes with him. "All set," he said, starting the engine. The old truck rumbled to life with a sound like distant thunder. "We'll take it slow. Roads are worse than I thought." As they pulled away, Ariana glanced back at her luxury sedan being towed behind them. $300,000 of engineering, now completely dependent on a truck that was probably older than she was. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Thank you," she said quietly. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along." Logan shrugged, eyes on the road. "Christmas Eve on Route 100? Someone always needs help. Last year it was a family from Boston with a flat tire. Year before, elderly couple whose engine overheated." He glanced at her briefly. "You're not the first person to underestimate Vermont winters." "Clearly I should have." "Where are you from? Originally?" "New York, Manhattan. Long way from home." Ariana almost said this property is business, not home, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the warmth of the truck, or the sight of Maya sleeping peacefully, or the way Logan asked questions without interrogation. Instead, she said, "I haven't been home for Christmas in 15 years. She didn't know why she offered that information. It wasn't relevant. It wasn't his business. But once spoken, it hung in the air between them like a confession. Logan was quiet for a moment, navigating a curve with careful attention. Then, "That's a long time. I've been busy." "Doing what?" "Running a company, building things, making sure quarterly projections meet expectations." The word sounded hollow even to her ears. "The things that matter." Logan nodded slowly, but said nothing. Somehow, his silence felt like disagreement. They drove through the snowfall, the truck's headlights carving tunnels of light through darkness. Occasionally, Ariana caught glimpses of the landscape. Frozen streams, dark houses with Christmas lights twinkling in windows, mailboxes standing sentinel like patient guards. It was a world completely foreign to her Manhattan existence, where buildings blocked out stars and street noise drowned out silence. "Daddy?" A small, sleepy voice came from the back seat. Logan glanced in the rearview mirror, his expression softening instantly. "Hey, Butterfly, we're almost home." "Did Santa come yet?" "Not yet. Still a few minutes till midnight." Maya sat up, rubbing her eyes, and noticed Ariana for the first time. "Oh, hello?" "Hi," Ariana said, completely unprepared for conversation with a child. "I'm Ariana." "That's a pretty name. I'm Maya." She yawned hugely. "Are you lost?" "My car broke down." "That's sad. But Daddy fixes things. He's really good at fixing things." Maya's faith was absolute, unquestioned. "He fixed my bike 3 times, and Mr. Henderson's tractor, and Mrs. Lou's washing machine. He can fix anything." "Maya," Logan said gently, "Miss Cole probably doesn't need your entire resume of my repair work." "It's okay," Ariana said, surprising herself. "It's impressive." "What do you fix?" Maya asked. Ariana paused. What did she fix? Problems, yes. Budget shortfalls, market share decline, leadership disputes. But fix, in the tangible way Logan fixed engines? She created things, systems, structures, strategies. But fixed? "I fix companies," she said finally. "When businesses aren't working right, I help make them better." Maya considered this seriously. "That sounds hard." "Sometimes it is. Daddy's job is hard too. Sometimes he works all night, but he always makes hot chocolate after, even when he's tired." She leaned forward. "Do you make hot chocolate?" "Maya, enough questions," Logan said, though his tone held warmth. "Miss Cole's had a long night." Actually, Ariana said, I can't remember the last time I made hot chocolate. Maya's eyes went wide with something like horror. Never? Not never, just not in a long time. That's so sad. Maya looked at her father. Daddy, can we make Miss Ariana hot chocolate when we get home? She needs it. Logan caught Ariana's eye, apologetic and amused in equal measure. You don't have to. I'd like that, Ariana heard herself say, if it's not too much trouble. It's never trouble for hot chocolate, Maya declared with the certainty of childhood. It's the most important meal. That's breakfast, Butterfly. Hot chocolate is more important than breakfast. Despite everything, the cold, the broken car, the strangeness of her situation, Ariana smiled. Actually smiled. The kind that reached her eyes and felt real instead of performed. They were entering a town now, though calling it a town seemed generous. Main Street was 6 blocks long, lined with shops that probably hadn't changed storefronts in 50 years. A diner with red vinyl booths visible through its windows. A hardware store with Christmas lights strung haphazardly across its awning. A church with a white steeple and a nativity scene on its lawn, the figures dusted with snow like blessings. Logan pulled the truck into a small lot beside a building that proudly declared Wells Auto Repair in faded letters. The garage was modest, 2 bays, a small office with a light burning in the window, and above it, Ariana realized, an apartment. This wasn't just Logan's business. It was his home. He killed the engine and turned to face her fully for the first time. In the dome light, she could see him clearly. Dark eyes that held intelligence and something else she couldn't name. A face weathered by honest work, and an expression of genuine kindness that seemed foreign in her world of calculated interactions. Welcome to Maple Falls, he said. Population 873. 874 now, I guess, at least for tonight. It's charming, Ariana said, and meant it. It's home. He opened his door. Come on, let's get you warm, get your car settled, and see about that hot chocolate Maya's now legally obligated me to make. They climbed out into snow that had gentled to occasional flurries, as if the storm had made its point and could now relent. Maya bounded ahead, her energy apparently inexhaustible despite the late hour, the Santa hat bouncing with each step. Logan unlocked the garage and hit a switch. Fluorescent lights flickered to life, revealing a space that was part workshop, part sanctuary. Tools hung in precise order on pegboards. 2 cars in various states of repair occupied the bays. A radio sat on a workbench, and beside it, a small Christmas tree. Artificial, maybe 3 feet tall, decorated with paper chains and homemade ornaments that could only have been crafted by a child's hands. It's not much, Logan said, guiding her Aston Martin into an empty bay with practiced ease. But it's warm and dry, and your car will be safe here. Ariana looked around, seeing not what it lacked, but what it held. Care, attention, pride in work done well. In her Manhattan office, everything was sleek and expensive and ultimately impersonal. Here, every tool had a story, every dent in the workbench was a memory. It's perfect, she said quietly. Logan glanced at her, surprised, then nodded. Come on, apartment's upstairs. Fair warning, it's small, and Maya's toy situation is currently out of control. I keep threatening to implement storage solutions, but apparently toys have feelings and can't be put away. Daddy, you can't hurt their feelings, Maya called from the stairs. See, I live under a tiny tyrant. The apartment above the garage was exactly what Logan had promised. Small, slightly cluttered, and radiating the kind of warmth that had nothing to do with heating vents. A living room with a couch covered in blankets and throw pillows. A kitchen barely big enough for 1 person, let alone 2. And another Christmas tree, this one real, its pine scent filling the space with something that made Ariana's chest ache with unexpected nostalgia. Sit, Logan said, gesturing to the couch. I'll get the hot chocolate started. Ariana sat, feeling suddenly awkward in her expensive coat and designer clothes. Maya plopped down beside her, so close their knees touched, and held up the stuffed reindeer. This is Rudolph. He's very old. Daddy had him when he was little. Sometimes his antlers fall off, but we just sew them back on. She offered the toy to Ariana, like sharing a precious secret. You can hold him if you want. Ariana accepted the reindeer carefully, feeling the weight of its well-loved body, seeing the carefully mended seams where antlers had been reattached multiple times. When was the last time someone had offered her something valuable just because? No transaction, no expectation, just simple sharing. "Thank you," she said. "He's very handsome." "I think so too." Maya leaned against her shoulder with the easy trust of children who haven't learned wariness yet. "Are you going to stay for Christmas?" "I don't know. I have to get back to New York." "But it's already almost Christmas. You can't leave on Christmas. That's sad." From the kitchen, Logan called, "Maya, Miss Cole has her own plans. Don't pester her." "I'm not pestering. I'm being friendly." "You said being friendly is important." "There's friendly, and then there's adopting every person you meet." "I don't adopt people, Daddy. That's silly. But maybe Miss Ariana would like to stay for cookies. We made cookies. They're a little burnt, but they taste okay." Ariana looked at this child, 7 years old, gap-toothed, wearing pajamas with snowmen on them, and a Santa hat that kept sliding over her eyes, and felt something crack in the careful armor she'd maintained for 15 years. When had anyone last wanted her company just for the sake of it? Not because she could offer them something, not because they needed her expertise or connections or money, just because. "I love burnt cookies," she said softly. Maya's face lit up like the Christmas tree in the corner. "Really? Really? Daddy, Miss Ariana loves burnt cookies. We found her perfect match." Logan appeared in the doorway holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate topped with marshmallows, his expression amused and something else, something that looked almost like relief. He handed one to Ariana, their fingers brushing briefly, and she felt warmth that had nothing to do with the drink. "Careful," he said. "It's hot." She took a sip, and it was exactly right. Sweet, but not too sweet. Rich chocolate cut with real cream. The kind of simple perfection that no expensive restaurant had ever achieved. The kind her mother used to make before the accident, before Ariana had learned that loving things meant losing them. "This is amazing," she said. "Old family recipe." Logan settled into an armchair across from them, his own mug cradled in work-roughened hands. "My grandmother insisted that hot chocolate fixed most problems. She might have been right." "She was definitely right," Maya said with authority, then yawned enormously. "Daddy, is it midnight yet?" Logan checked his watch. 2 minutes. "Can we stay up, please? I want to see Christmas start." 5 minutes. Then bed, Butterfly. They sat together in the warm apartment while the clock ticked toward midnight and snow fell outside the windows. Somewhere in town, church bells began to ring, their sound carrying clear and bright through the winter air. Maya counted down the seconds with the seriousness of a child for whom Christmas was still pure magic. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. "It's Christmas!" She launched herself at her father, who caught her with practiced ease, spinning her around until she shrieked with laughter. Then she turned to Ariana, her small face flushed with joy. "Merry Christmas, Miss Ariana." "Merry Christmas, Maya." And for the first time in 15 years, Ariana Cole meant it. Logan carried his daughter to bed while Ariana sat on the couch, holding her cooling hot chocolate and staring at the Christmas tree. She should be uncomfortable. Should be checking her phone for messages, planning her next move, calculating how quickly she could get back to civilization. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Present. Actually here. In this moment, rather than racing 3 steps ahead toward the next goal. When Logan returned, he found her still sitting there, lost in thought. "Sorry," he said quietly. "She gets excited." "Don't apologize. She's wonderful." He smiled, a real smile that crinkled his eyes. "She is. Makes it easier being a single parent. She's just easy to love." He paused. "Her mom passed when she was 2. Car accident. Maya doesn't remember her, which somehow makes it harder and easier at the same time." "I'm so sorry." It was a long time ago. Logan settled back into his chair. "You learn to build a life around grief, fill in the empty spaces with other things, work, friends, moments like this." He gestured around the modest apartment. "It's not what I planned, but it's good." Ariana thought about her own life. The penthouse that echoed with silence, the dinners eaten alone at her desk, the holidays spent working because working meant not thinking about all the empty spaces she'd learned to ignore. My parents died 15 years ago, she heard herself say. Christmas Eve. Car accident on their way to spend the holiday with me. The words came out flat, rehearsed from years of brief explanations. I was supposed to go home, but I had a work crisis. Told them to come to me instead. They were 2 hours from my apartment when a drunk driver crossed the median. Logan's expression shifted. Not pity exactly, but understanding. That's why you haven't been home for Christmas. Haven't celebrated it at all, actually. Easier to just work through it, treat it like any other day. She took a shaky breath. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Sign papers, sell the property they left me, be back in Manhattan before anyone noticed I was gone. What changed? My car broke down. She smiled weakly. Or maybe nothing changed. Maybe I just can't run fast enough anymore. They sat in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Outside, the snow had stopped completely, leaving the world blanketed in white perfection. Inside, the Christmas tree lights blinked their steady rhythm, and somewhere in the apartment, Maya slept peacefully, secure in her father's love. You're welcome to stay, Logan said eventually. The couch pulls out. It's not fancy, but it's warm. I'll work on your car first thing tomorrow. Christmas or not, stranded people don't stop being stranded. You could be on the road by noon. I don't want to impose. It's not an imposition. It's Christmas. He stood, stretching. Besides, if you leave before morning, Maya will assume you were a Christmas ghost, and I'll never hear the end of it. Despite herself, Ariana laughed. Actually laughed, the sound feeling foreign and wonderful in her chest. Can't have that. Definitely not. She already believes in magic. Let's not give her more evidence. Logan pulled out the couch, found clean sheets and extra blankets, and transformed the living room into something like a guest room. He moved with the same efficient kindness he'd shown on the road. No fuss, no expectation of gratitude, just simple help offered freely. Bathroom's down the hall, he said. Help yourself to anything you need. And if Maya wakes you up at 5 a.m. demanding to open presents, I apologize in advance. 5 a.m. She's been known to start at 4. I'm hoping for 5. I'll be prepared. He paused at the hallway entrance, backlit by the kitchen light. Ariana? Yes? I'm glad we found you tonight, not just because you needed help, but because he seemed to search for words. Because it's Christmas, and nobody should spend it alone. Especially not on purpose. Before she could respond, he disappeared down the hall, leaving her alone with the Christmas tree and her thoughts. Ariana changed into the spare sweats Logan had provided, too big, smelling of laundry detergent and something woodsy, and settled onto the pull-out couch. Through the window, she could see Main Street, its Christmas lights still burning bright even though the town was asleep. She should feel uncomfortable, sleeping in a stranger's home. Should be worried about appearances, about vulnerability, about all the things that kept her safe in her carefully controlled Manhattan life. Instead, wrapped in borrowed blankets in a tiny apartment above a garage, Ariana Cole felt something she hadn't felt in 15 years, like she'd accidentally found her way home, even though she didn't live here and never had. Like the breakdown on Route 100 wasn't random misfortune, but something else entirely. The universe's gentle insistence that she stop running long enough to remember what she was running from. Outside, the church bells rang one final time, their sound fading into the silent Vermont night. And inside, in the warm darkness, Ariana closed her eyes and let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe broken things, cars and hearts and Christmases long abandoned, could be fixed after all. She fell asleep to the thought of hot chocolate and paper stars and a little girl's absolute faith that her father could fix anything. And for the first time in 15 years, Ariana dreamed not of spreadsheets and quarterly reports, but of snow falling gentle as forgiveness, and strangers who treated kindness like the most ordinary gift in the world. The sound that woke Ariana wasn't an alarm or the muted hum of Manhattan traffic filtering through triple-paned windows. It was giggling, high-pitched, conspiratorial, and coming from approximately 6 inches away from her face. She opened her eyes to find Maya crouched beside the pull-out couch, still wearing her snowman pajamas, the Santa hat now completely askew. The little girl's eyes went wide with delight. "She's awake!" Maya announced to the universe. "Daddy, Miss Ariana's awake!" Ariana blinked against the morning light streaming through the windows she didn't recognize, momentarily disoriented. Then memory returned in a flood. The broken car, the tow truck, hot chocolate at midnight. She'd fallen asleep in Logan Wells's living room wrapped in his spare blankets and apparently slept better than she had in months. "What time is it?" she managed, her voice still rough with sleep. 6:32, Maya said with precision. "I wanted to wake you at 6, but Daddy said that was rude, so I waited 32 whole minutes. That's a very long time." From the kitchen came Logan's voice, tinged with amusement. "Maya, we discussed this. Let Miss Cole wake up on her own." "But she did wake up on her own. I was just sitting here very quietly, and she opened her eyes all by herself." Ariana sat up, running a hand through her hair and becoming acutely aware that she probably looked nothing like the polished CEO who'd left Manhattan yesterday. No makeup, borrowed clothes, and what she suspected was a spectacular case of bedhead. In her normal life, she wouldn't be seen like this even by her closest colleagues. Yet somehow, sitting in Logan's living room with a 7-year-old studying her with open curiosity, she didn't feel exposed, just human. "Good morning, Maya," she said. "Merry Christmas!" Maya bounced on her heels. "Did you know it's Christmas? We get to open presents after breakfast, but Daddy says we have to eat something healthy first because sugar on an empty stomach makes me vibrate." She said the last word with exaggerated emphasis, clearly quoting her father. "But I think vibrating sounds fun." "It's less fun at 7 a.m., Logan called from the kitchen. Ariana swung her legs off the couch, her feet finding the cold hardwood floor. Through the window, she could see Maple Falls in daylight, a postcard vision of small-town Christmas morning with snow-frosted rooftops and smoke rising from chimneys. A few people were already out, walking dogs or heading toward the church on the corner, their breath visible in the cold air. "I'm making pancakes," Logan said, appearing in the doorway. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, his hair still damp from a shower, and held a spatula like a casual weapon. "Hope that's okay. Maya informs me we're out of vibration prevention options otherwise." "Pancakes are perfect," Ariana said, standing and immediately feeling self-conscious about the too large sweats and her general state of disarray. "Can I help?" "You're a guest. Guests don't cook." "She could set the table," Maya suggested. "That's helping, but not cooking." Logan smiled. "That's actually a good compromise. Maya, show Miss Cole where we keep the plates." The kitchen was barely large enough for 2 people, let alone 3, but Maya took her role as guide seriously. She pulled a step stool to the cabinets and pointed out plates, glasses, and the special Christmas napkins that featured snowmen that matched her pajamas. Ariana followed instructions, setting the small table by the window while Logan worked at the stove with the unconscious efficiency of someone who'd made this exact meal 1,000 times. "Do you have kids?" Maya asked, arranging forks with intense concentration. "No, I don't." "Do you want kids?" "Maya," Logan said gently, "that's personal." "But how will I know about her if I don't ask questions?" "There's curious, and then there's interviewing for a documentary." Maya considered this. "What's a documentary?" "A very long movie about someone's life." "Oh, then I'm definitely doing that." She turned back to Ariana with renewed purpose. "Do you like pancakes?" "I do." "What's your favorite color?" "Blue." "Do you have a dog?" "No." "That's sad. Dogs are very important. We don't have one either because Daddy says the apartment is too small, but I think a small dog would fit perfectly." She paused for breath. "Do you like Christmas?" The question landed differently than the others, sharper, touching something tender. Ariana met Logan's eyes across the kitchen. He was watching her with quiet attention, the spatula paused mid-flip. "I'm learning to like it again," Ariana said carefully. "I forgot how for a while." Maya nodded with the wisdom of someone who'd never forgotten anything important. "That happens sometimes. I forgot how to tie my shoes for 3 whole days, but then I remembered. Daddy says our brains are like computers and sometimes they need to restart." "Your dad is very smart." "I know," Maya said matter-of-factly. "He knows everything about cars and most things about people and all things about pancakes. The pancakes are his superpower." Logan laughed, sliding a perfectly golden pancake onto a plate. I don't know about that, Butterfly. It's true. Remember when Mrs. Henderson was sad about Mr. Henderson being sick? You made her pancakes and she said they were medicine for her heart. Mrs. Henderson was being nice. No, she was being true. Your pancakes are magic. Maya looked at Ariana. You'll see. They make everything better. They settled around the small table, plates piled with pancakes that were indeed perfectly made, golden, fluffy, steaming in the cool morning air. Logan had added blueberries to Maya's and Ariana's without asking, a small consideration that somehow felt significant. When was the last time someone had anticipated her preferences without being told? The first bite proved Maya right. These weren't just good pancakes, they were the platonic ideal of pancakes, somehow both light and substantial, sweet, but not cloying. Ariana had eaten at Michelin-starred restaurants where desserts cost more than Logan probably charged for an oil change, but nothing had tasted this good. These are incredible, she said. Told you, Maya said around a mouthful, earning a gentle look from her father. Swallow before talking, please. Maya swallowed dramatically. Told you, she repeated. Magic pancakes. They ate in comfortable near silence, punctuated by Maya's occasional observations about snow depth, present opening protocol, and whether Santa had definitely come, or probably come, or maybe come. Logan responded to each question with patience that never seemed forced, his attention on his daughter complete and genuine. Watching them, Ariana felt something shift in her chest, a recognition of what she'd been missing, hidden beneath all her success and accomplishments. Not just family, though that was part of it, but this specific quality of presence, of being fully engaged in a moment without part of your mind already racing toward the next meeting, the next crisis, the next achievement to unlock. So what's the plan for your car? Logan asked, pulling her from her thoughts. What do you recommend? Well, the fuel line needs to thaw completely, which will take a few hours in the heated garage. Then I'll flush the system, make sure there's no other cold damage, check your battery. Cold like we had last night can stress electrical systems. He took a sip of coffee. I can probably have you road ready by early afternoon, assuming nothing else shows up. On Christmas Day, don't you have... She gestured vaguely around the apartment. Plans? Presents? Things normal people do? We do presents after breakfast, Maya supplied helpfully. Then Daddy works if people need help, and I play with my presents, and then we have Christmas dinner with Miss Helen and Mr. George from next door because they don't have kids and we don't have grandparents, so we share. She said this like it was the most logical arrangement in the world. Maple Falls operates on a different schedule, Logan added. People need help when they need it, holiday or not. I usually have 2 or 3 calls on Christmas, travelers passing through, families visiting who forget how Vermont winters work. It's part of the job. But you should be with Maya. I can wait until tomorrow. Miss Ariana, Maya interrupted with 7-year-old seriousness. Daddy's job is fixing things that are broken. That's important work. You can't just leave things broken because it's a holiday. That's silly. Out of the mouths of children, Ariana thought. How many times had she used that exact logic to justify missing holidays, canceling plans, choosing work over life? But somehow hearing it applied to actual fixing, tangible repair rather than corporate firefighting, made it sound different. More real, maybe. More necessary. Okay, she said. But at least let me pay you properly. I don't want to take advantage. Logan held up a hand. We'll figure it out when your car's running. For now, finish your magic pancakes before Maya gives you her full presentation on why they're actually medicinal. They are medicinal. Science says so. Science says pancakes are medicine? Miss Henderson said it, and she used to be a nurse. So that's basically science. After breakfast, Maya insisted on showing Ariana the presents under their small tree. They weren't many, maybe 10 boxes total, wrapped in paper that showed evidence of enthusiastic, if imprecise, tape application. Maya handled each one with reverence, reading the tags aloud and explaining her theories about the contents. This one is definitely Legos because it's heavy but rattly. This one might be books because it's soft but square. This one is probably clothes because Daddy always gives me one present that's practical, but he tries to hide it in fun paper so I don't get sad. I heard that, Logan called from the kitchen where he was washing dishes. It's okay, Daddy. I don't mind practical presents, Last year you gave me snow boots and I wore them every single day, even in April when there was no snow, because they made me feel powerful. Ariana found herself smiling more in one morning than she had in the past month. There was something infectious about Maya's joy, her unfiltered enthusiasm for the smallest things. No cynicism, no calculation, just pure, honest emotion about wrapping paper and the possibility of Legos. "Can I open one now?" Maya asked, directing the question toward the kitchen. Logan appeared in the doorway, dish towel over his shoulder. "One, but choose carefully." Maya studied the presents with the intensity of a general planning a campaign. Finally, she selected a medium-sized box wrapped in paper covered with penguins wearing scarves. She brought it to the couch and opened it with surprising care, peeling tape methodically rather than tearing. Inside was a wooden box with a hinged lid. Maya opened it to reveal a collection of art supplies, colored pencils, a small watercolor set, brushes, a pad of thick paper. Her face transformed with delight. "Daddy, it's the real kind! The kind Mrs. Patterson uses." "Mrs. Patterson teaches art at the elementary school," Logan explained to Ariana. "Maya's been admiring her supplies since September." Maya was already opening the pencils, examining each color with careful attention. "There's 64 colors. That's more than I've ever had." She looked up at her father with shining eyes. "Thank you, Daddy." "You're welcome, Butterfly." Logan sat on the arm of the couch, his expression soft. "I know you've been working hard on your drawings. I'm going to make you something beautiful. Maybe a picture of the garage with snow on it, or Rudolph, or Miss Ariana." "You don't have to draw me," Ariana said quickly. "But you're here. That makes you part of Christmas, and Christmas things should be in Christmas pictures. That's just logic." Logan caught Ariana's eye, shrugging with amused resignation. "You'll learn that arguing with Maya's logic is a losing battle. Better to just accept your fate as a subject of artistic interpretation." "I'll make you look very fancy," Maya promised, "with your nice coat and your fancy car, and maybe a crown because you look like someone who should wear a crown." "I really don't. It's decided," Maya announced with finality, then immediately began arranging her new supplies on the coffee table with meticulous care. Logan stood, stretching. "I should get down to the garage, start working on your car. Maya, you remember the rules? Stay in the apartment, don't touch the stove. If I need you, I call down the stairs, and if it's an emergency, I call 911, and then Miss Helen." She recited this without looking up from her pencils. "Perfect." He hesitated, glancing at Ariana. "You're welcome to stay up here where it's warm, or if you want to see the work, you can come down. Fair warning, it's not exciting, mostly just waiting for things to heat up." Ariana stood, surprising herself. "I'd like to come down, if that's okay." "Really?" Logan looked genuinely surprised. "It's just a garage. I've never actually watched someone fix a car before. It seems like something I should understand considering how often I depend on them." Maya looked up from her art supplies. "That's very smart, Miss Ariana. Daddy says everyone should know how the things they use actually work. He tried to teach me about engines, but I fell asleep during the part about combustion." "In my defense," Logan said, "it was bedtime and I might have made it too complicated." "You made it very complicated," Maya agreed cheerfully. "But Miss Ariana is a grown-up, so maybe she'll understand better." The garage was significantly colder than the apartment, though Logan had turned on the space heaters overnight. Ariana's Aston Martin sat in the bay like an expensive sculpture, utterly out of place among the practical vehicles and well-used tools. Logan had already raised the hood and now stood studying the engine with the focused attention she recognized from her own work. That moment of assessment before action, when you're mapping the problem in your mind. "Coffee?" he asked, gesturing to a pot brewing on a small table in the corner. "Please." He poured 2 cups into mugs that had clearly been collected over years. One said, "Vermont, where winter lasts 6 months and road construction lasts the other 6. Another featured a faded logo for a parts supplier. He handed her the Vermont one. "So," he said, moving back to her car, "the basic problem is that moisture got into your fuel line, probably from condensation because you don't drive this much in cold weather. When the temperature dropped last night, that moisture froze, blocking fuel flow. The engine can't run without fuel, so it died." "That seems like a design flaw." It's more a maintenance issue. European luxury cars need different care than, say, a Subaru that was born for Vermont winters. Your car is amazing, beautiful engine, incredible engineering, but it's meant for California highways, not mountain roads in December. He reached into the engine compartment, checking something Ariana couldn't see. Not the car's fault, just using it outside its comfort zone. Story of my life, Ariana murmured. Logan glanced at her, curious, but didn't push. Instead, he began explaining what he was doing, checking connections, examining hoses, tracing systems with practiced hands. His voice took on a different quality when he talked about engines. Not pedantic, but genuinely engaged, the way Maya talked about her colored pencils. This was clearly his language, the vocabulary of repair and mechanical sympathy. The thing about fixing cars, he said, pointing out a component Ariana had no name for, is that it's mostly about listening. Engines tell you what's wrong if you pay attention. A knock here, a rattle there, the way something feels when you touch it. Most people just hear noise. But if you really listen, the car's having a conversation. What's mine saying? That it's cold, stressed, and probably wondering why you drove it somewhere it's never been. He smiled slightly. Also that it's very well maintained. Someone takes good care of this vehicle. I have a service contract. They do everything. Shows. Most people don't change their oil often enough, or they ignore small problems until they're big ones. You, or your service people, actually care about preventive work. Makes a difference. Ariana sipped her coffee, watching him work. There was something meditative about it, the way he moved around the car with complete confidence, never rushed, but never wasting motion. In her world, everything was urgent, meetings that couldn't wait, decisions that needed immediate answers, crises that demanded instant solutions. Here, Logan simply did the work that needed doing, trusting that patience would solve what hurry couldn't. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a while. "Sure." "Why here? Why Maple Falls? You're clearly skilled enough to work anywhere, a dealership, a specialty shop in a city. You could probably make 5 times what you make here." Logan was quiet for a moment, his hands still busy in the engine compartment. "I grew up here. My dad ran this garage before me, and his dad before him. Wells Auto Repair has been in this building since 1953. He straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. "When my wife died, I thought about leaving, starting over somewhere new where everything didn't remind me of her. But Maya was 2, and she needed stability more than I needed escape. That must have been hard. Hardest thing I've ever done." He moved to a workbench, selecting a different tool. But Maple Falls showed up. People brought meals when I couldn't cook. Miss Helen watched Maya when I had to work. The whole town just held us until we could hold ourselves. He returned to the car. "You don't leave a place like that. You stay and try to pay it forward." Ariana thought about her own life after her parents died. The empty apartment, the colleagues who sent sympathy cards but maintained professional distance, the grief she'd handled alone because she didn't know how to ask for help and wasn't sure anyone would come if she did. She'd had money, success, every resource imaginable, but she hadn't had a Miss Helen or a town that showed up. "That sounds wonderful," she said quietly. "Having that kind of community." "It is. It's also complicated and occasionally frustrating because everyone knows everything about everyone, and privacy is more theoretical than actual." He grinned. "But on balance, worth it, especially for Maya. She's growing up surrounded by people who love her, in a place where she can be a kid without the world rushing her forward. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the reason I get up in the morning, the reason I try to be better than I was yesterday. Kids do that, give you a reason bigger than yourself." He paused, then added carefully, "You really don't have any family? No one you spend holidays with?" "No siblings. My parents were only children, so no cousins. And I've been so focused on work that friendships sort of fell away. There are colleagues I'm friendly with, but that's different." She wrapped both hands around her coffee mug, seeking its warmth. "Mostly there's just me and the company." "That sounds lonely." "It is," Ariana admitted, the honesty surprising her. "But lonely is manageable. Lonely doesn't disappoint you or leave you. You just have to stay busy enough not to notice." Logan studied her for a long moment, his dark eyes holding an expression she couldn't quite read. Sadness, maybe, or recognition. That's not living. That's just existing really efficiently. Says the man who works Christmas morning. I work Christmas morning fixing things that actually break, for people who actually need help. That's different than working to avoid feeling something. His voice was gentle but firm. And I work for a few hours, then I go upstairs and have Christmas with my daughter. I don't miss the actual living part. The words hit harder than Ariana expected, landing somewhere tender she'd been protecting for years. Because he was right, wasn't he? She'd built an empire of efficient, existing, optimizing everything except the one thing that mattered, actually experiencing her life instead of just managing it. I don't know how to do it differently, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Sure you do. You're doing it right now. Watching you fix my car? Being here, talking, having breakfast with people who are glad you stayed. He returned his attention to the engine, giving her privacy for her emotions. Start small, see what happens. They worked in companionable silence after that, Logan doing the actual work, Ariana watching and asking occasional questions that he answered with surprising patience. He explained compression ratios and fuel injection systems, showed her how to check oil levels and identify warning signs. Most of it went over her head, but she appreciated the education, the generosity of his teaching. Around noon, Maya appeared at the top of the stairs, carefully balancing a plate. I made sandwiches, she announced. Well, Daddy made them yesterday and I put them on a plate, but that's still making them today because assembly is important. Logan wiped his hands and climbed the stairs to take the plate. Thank you, Butterfly. Very thoughtful. Miss Helen called. She said to ask if Miss Ariana is staying for dinner because if she is, Miss Helen needs to know for the seating chart. She takes seating charts very seriously. That's Miss Cole's decision, Logan said. Maya looked hopefully at Ariana. Will you stay, please? Miss Helen makes turkey and also ham because she says people should have choices, and there's pie. 3 kinds, because Mr. George can't decide what he likes best, so he makes everything. Ariana opened her mouth to politely decline, to explain that she needed to get back to New York, that she'd already imposed enough, that she had responsibilities. But looking at Maya's hopeful face and Logan's careful neutrality that somehow conveyed he wanted her to stay, and thinking about the empty penthouse waiting for her, she found different words coming out. I'd love to stay, if it's really okay. Maya shrieked with joy and threw her arms around Ariana's waist in a hug that was entirely unself-conscious and surprisingly fierce. This is the best Christmas. Daddy, Miss Ariana is staying. I heard, Butterfly, and yes, it is a good Christmas. He said it looking directly at Ariana, and something in his expression made her heart do a complicated flip. When was the last time someone had looked at her like that, not assessing her utility or calculating her worth, but simply glad she existed and was present? They ate lunch in the garage, sitting on overturned crates while Maya chattered about her morning of drawing. She'd created 3 pictures so far, one of Rudolph with anatomically improbable antlers, one of the garage with snow piled impossibly high, and one of what she claimed was Ariana, though it looked more like a stick figure wearing a triangle. The triangle is your fancy coat, Maya explained seriously. Triangles are very fancy shapes. It's beautiful, Ariana said, meaning it. After lunch, Logan sent Maya back upstairs to play while he continued working. The garage was warmer now, the heaters having done their job, and Ariana found herself relaxing in ways she hadn't in years. No emails to check, no meetings to prepare for, no performance to maintain. Just the ambient sound of tools and occasional conversation, punctuated by comfortable silence. Tell me about your company, Logan said around 2 p.m., his voice slightly muffled because he was underneath the car. Maya called you a CEO, but CEO of what? Tech Vista Industries. We develop AI integration systems for enterprise resource planning. Silence from under the car. Then, I understand all those words individually, but not in that order. Despite everything, Ariana laughed. We make software that helps big companies use artificial intelligence to manage their resources more efficiently. That's either incredibly important or incredibly boring. Possibly both. Definitely both. But it's lucrative, and I'm good at it. How'd you end up doing that? You wake up one day and think, I want to integrate artificial intelligence? Not exactly. Ariana settled against the workbench, watching his legs protruding from under her car. I studied computer science in college because I liked solving puzzles. Got recruited by a tech company, worked my way up, learned the business side. When I was 30, I saw an opportunity everyone else was missing. Companies drowning in data, but unable to use it effectively. So I built a solution, found investors, and 10 years later, here we are. Impressive. Is it? Some days it feels more like I accidentally got very good at something that doesn't matter. Logan rolled out from under the car, his face smudged with grease. It matters if it helps people do their jobs better, solve problems, build things. Just because it's not tangible doesn't mean it's not real. He sat up, studying her. But maybe the question isn't whether it matters. Maybe it's whether it matters to you. That's surprisingly philosophical for a mechanic. Mechanics have a lot of time to think. Engines don't talk back. He smiled. Plus, my grandmother was a philosophy professor. Some of it stuck. The one with the hot chocolate wisdom? Different grandmother. I come from a long line of wise women who married men smart enough to listen to them. Ariana found herself smiling. You were lucky. I was, though luck is only part of it. The rest is paying attention to the lessons and actually applying them. He stood, stretching. Your car's almost done. Another hour, maybe 2. I want to run a full diagnostic, make sure everything's talking properly, then you'll be good to go. The words should have been reassuring. Soon she'd be back on the road, heading toward Manhattan and the life she'd built. But instead of relief, Ariana felt something uncomfortably close to disappointment. She wasn't ready to leave yet. This garage, this town, this unexpected Christmas that had cracked something open inside her. Hey, Logan said gently, and she realized he'd been watching her face. You okay? I don't know, she admitted. I came here to sign papers and leave, to treat it like business. But instead, I'm eating pancakes with your daughter and learning about fuel injection, and it's the most alive I've felt in years, which is either wonderful or pathetic. I can't decide. It's neither. It's just human. He moved closer, his expression serious. Can I tell you something my grandmother, the hot chocolate one, told me after Sarah died? Ariana nodded. She said grief is just love with nowhere to go. That when we lose people, we don't stop loving them. We just have to find new places for that love. Some people bury it. Some people let it turn bitter. But the healthy thing is to let it flow again toward new people, new experiences, new chances to be alive. He paused. You've been buried for 15 years. Maybe it's okay to let yourself surface. Ariana felt tears prick her eyes, sudden and unexpected. I don't know if I remember how. You're already doing it. You stayed last night. You had breakfast with us. You're here in my garage on Christmas Day wearing borrowed sweats and asking about compression ratios. That's not buried. That's alive. It's terrifying. All the best things are. He smiled. Come on, let's finish your car so you have the option to run away if you need it. But maybe stick around for dinner first. Miss Helen really does make excellent turkey. They worked together for the next hour, Logan explaining each step, Ariana asking questions and occasionally handing him tools. She learned to identify different engine sounds, understand diagnostic codes, and appreciate the satisfaction of fixing something tangible. In her world, success was abstract, increased efficiency, better margins, optimized processes. Here, success was an engine that started when you turned the key. At 4 p.m., Logan straightened from the engine compartment and wiped his hands with finality. Moment of truth, he said. Want to do the honors? Ariana slid into the driver's seat of her Aston Martin, the leather familiar but somehow different now, like she was sitting in a stranger's car. Logan had explained everything he'd done, showed her the parts he'd replaced, walked her through the diagnostic results. Her car wasn't just fixed. It was understood, cataloged, treated with respect rather than just serviced. She turned the key. The engine came to life with its characteristic purr, smooth and powerful, exactly as it should. On the dashboard, every system showed green, every indicator exactly where it belonged. The heating kicked in, warming the interior, and the radio illuminated with its preset stations, NPR, classical music, the sanitized soundtrack of her normal life. Perfect, Logan said, listening with the attention most people reserved for music. She's happy again. Should get you back to New York, no problem. Ariana sat in her running car, hands on the steering wheel, and felt absolutely nothing like leaving. Maya burst into the garage at precisely that moment, holding a piece of paper with both hands like it was precious. "Don't go yet," she called. "I finished your picture." She ran to the car window, and Ariana rolled it down. The drawing Maya held up was still recognizably childlike, but Ariana could see the care that had gone into it. Careful coloring, attention to detail, a 7-year-old's best effort at capturing something real. The picture showed 3 figures standing in front of a garage with snow falling around them. One tall figure in flannel, clearly Logan. One small figure wearing a Santa hat, obviously Maya. And between them, one figure in a blue triangle coat with a smile that Maya had drawn carefully, using her new colored pencils to capture something Ariana hadn't realized showed on her face. Happiness. "That's us," Maya said unnecessarily. "Our Christmas. I put you in the middle because that's where you were. Right in the middle of everything. Do you like it?" Ariana took the picture with hands that weren't quite steady. "Maya, this is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever made me." "Really?" "Really," Maya beamed. "You can keep it, to remember us when you go back to New York and fix your companies, so you don't forget about magic pancakes and Maple Falls and me." "I could never forget about you," Ariana said, and knew it was true. Logan appeared at the car window, his expression unreadable. "Dinner's at 6. Miss Helen lives 3 houses down, the blue one with the ridiculous number of Christmas lights. Can't miss it." "I'll be there," Ariana heard herself promise. She should leave now, drive straight through to Manhattan, arrive by midnight, salvage something of her normal life. The property papers were still unsigned in her briefcase. Her assistant had probably sent 17 increasingly worried emails. The company didn't run itself, and she'd been gone almost 24 hours without real communication. But looking at Maya's drawing and Logan's quiet hope and the Christmas lights already twinkling on houses up and down Main Street, Ariana made a different choice. "Actually," she said, "is there a hotel in town? I'd like to stay tonight. If that's okay, I can drive back tomorrow." Maya's face lit up like the Christmas tree upstairs. "You're staying! Daddy, she's staying!" "I heard, Butterfly." Logan's smile was slow but genuine, reaching his eyes and staying there. "And yeah, there's a bed and breakfast on Elm Street. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and warm. I can call Mrs. Patterson, let her know you're coming. Thank you for everything. The tow, the repair, the breakfast, the education in automotive mechanics." Ariana gestured helplessly. "For being kind to a stranger." You're not a stranger anymore," Maya said matter-of-factly. "You're our friend. That's different." Logan just nodded, but something in his expression made Ariana's chest feel tight and warm simultaneously. When was the last time she'd made a friend? Real friend, not a networking contact or professional acquaintance. When was the last time someone had been glad of her company rather than her competence? She couldn't remember. "See you at 6, she said. "See you at 6, Logan echoed. Ariana drove her repaired Aston Martin the 4 blocks to Patterson's bed and breakfast, following Logan's directions. The town was coming alive with Christmas evening activity. Families walking to church services, kids trying out new sleds on the small hill by the elementary school, lights warming windows up and down every street. It was exactly the kind of scene she used to mock in her head, dismissing it as provincial nostalgia for a world that never really existed. But it did exist. She was driving through it, breathing its cold air, becoming part of its story, even if just for one night. Mrs. Patterson turned out to be the art teacher Maya had mentioned, a woman in her 60s with paint-stained fingers and a warm smile. She showed Ariana to a room on the 2nd floor, floral wallpaper, handmade quilt, a window overlooking Main Street. It was the opposite of her minimalist penthouse in every way, yet somehow it felt more like home than her apartment ever had. Ariana unpacked her small bag, hung up her coat, and looked at herself in the antique mirror above the dresser. She looked different somehow. Softer maybe, or more human. Less like the Forbes profile and more like the person she might have been if different choices had led to different paths. Her phone finally had signal, and when she checked it, the screen exploded with notifications. 42 emails, 17 missed calls, 3 voicemails. Her assistant had sent increasingly frantic messages wondering where she was, whether she was okay, why she wasn't responding. Ariana typed a quick response. Had car trouble. Staying overnight. Everything's fine. Take tomorrow off. Merry Christmas. Then she silenced her phone and put it in a drawer. At 6 p.m. exactly, wearing her cashmere coat over borrowed sweats because she had nothing else, Ariana walked 3 houses down to Miss Helen's blue house. It was, as Logan had promised, impossible to miss. Every surface covered in lights, with illuminated reindeer on the lawn and a glowing Santa in the window. It looked like Christmas had exploded across the property in the best possible way. Logan answered her knock, now wearing a clean flannel shirt and an expression of carefully restrained pleasure. "You came," he said. "You invited me." "People don't always come when invited." "Well," Ariana said softly, "I'm trying to be different than I've been." His smile was worth every uncomfortable moment of the day. "Come in. Miss Helen's been cooking since dawn, and if we don't eat soon, Maya might actually vibrate through the floor." The evening that followed was unlike any Christmas Ariana could remember. Miss Helen turned out to be a force of nature in her 70s, with opinions about everything and the warmth to make those opinions feel like affection. Mr. George was quieter, but no less kind. A retired teacher who asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to the answers. They ate turkey and ham and 3 kinds of pie, just as promised. They shared stories. Miss Helen about the 62 Christmases she'd lived in Maple Falls, Mr. George about teaching 3 generations of local children, Logan about the year Maya decided Santa needed help and left out tools instead of cookies. And slowly, carefully, Ariana found herself sharing too, about her parents, about building her company, about the years of Christmas she'd missed by choice and the one she'd stumbled into by accident. They listened without judgment, responded without pity, and made space for her grief without trying to fix it. After dinner, Maya fell asleep on the couch with Rudolph clutched tight. Miss Helen and Mr. George retreated to the kitchen with their coffee, leaving Logan and Ariana alone in the living room with the Christmas tree lights and the quiet of snow falling outside. "Thank you for today," Ariana said. "For all of it." "You don't have to thank me for basic human decency." Maybe that's the problem. Basic human decency has been so rare in my life that it feels extraordinary. She turned to look at him. "Or maybe you're just extraordinary." Logan met her eyes, and the moment stretched between them, charged with possibility, tender with the beginnings of something neither could name yet. He reached out slowly, giving her time to move away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. "What did you expect?" "Someone harder, more closed off. The ice queen the internet talks about." "You looked me up?" "Maya used my phone after lunch to search Fancy Lady CEO. Your Wikipedia page came up." He smiled slightly. "Impressive resume." "That's not me, not really. That's just what I built instead of having a life." "Well," Logan said, his hand still near her face, "maybe you can build something different now. Something that includes pancakes and magic and towns full of people who show up for each other." "Is that an invitation?" "Maybe. Is that a question?" Before Ariana could answer, Maya stirred on the couch, mumbling something about Rudolph needing a blanket. Logan moved away to tend to his daughter, the moment broken but not forgotten, and Ariana sat in Miss Helen's living room on Christmas night feeling more awake and alive than she had in 15 years. She stayed until almost 10, helping clean up, listening to more stories, watching Logan be a father with such natural grace it made her chest ache. When she finally walked back to the bed and breakfast, snow was falling again, gentle this time, peaceful rather than threatening. In her borrowed room, she pulled out Maya's drawing and propped it against the mirror. 3 figures in front of a garage. A family that wasn't hers but had welcomed her anyway. A moment captured in colored pencil that meant more than every award on her office wall. Ariana fell asleep thinking not about the life she was returning to tomorrow, but about the one she'd accidentally discovered today. And for the first time in years, the thought of Christmas didn't hurt. It felt like possibility. Morning came too early and not early enough. Ariana woke to sunlight streaming through lace curtains and the distant sound of church bells marking the day after Christmas. For a disorienting moment, she didn't know where she was. This wasn't her penthouse, wasn't her bed, wasn't the controlled environment she'd carefully constructed over 15 years. Then memory flooded back, bringing with it a complicated knot of emotions she couldn't quite untangle. Yesterday had happened. The pancakes, the garage, the dinner with people who treated her like she belonged. Logan's hand near her face, the almost moment that felt more significant than any actual kiss she'd experienced in years. She should leave. Should get in her repaired car, drive back to Manhattan, return to being the person everyone expected. Her assistant would be waiting. The company would need decisions. Life didn't pause just because she'd stumbled into a Hallmark movie for 24 hours. Ariana pulled out her phone, ignoring the new pile of notifications, and opened her calendar. A board meeting on the 28th. Investor calls on the 29th. The product launch planning session on January 2nd. Her entire life mapped out in 30-minute increments, each block of time optimized for maximum productivity. She stared at the screen until the words blurred, feeling something shift uncomfortably in her chest. When had this stopped feeling like success and started feeling like a prison? A knock on her door interrupted the thought. When she opened it, Mrs. Patterson stood in the hallway holding a breakfast tray. "Thought you might like something before you head out," the art teacher said with a smile. "Logan mentioned you were driving back to New York today." "Logan called you?" "Stopped by on his way to the garage. That man's been up since 5. Some emergency call about a truck that wouldn't start. But he wanted to make sure you had breakfast." Mrs. Patterson set the tray on the small table by the window. "Blueberry muffins, fresh from my oven, coffee's in the thermos, cream and sugar on the side." Ariana looked at the tray. Simple white dishes, a cloth napkin, steam rising from the muffins, and felt her throat tighten. When was the last time someone had thought about her breakfast? Not a catered corporate event or a business meal with ulterior motives, but just breakfast, offered because someone cared whether she ate. "Thank you," she managed. "You're welcome, dear." Mrs. Patterson moved toward the door, then paused. "You know, I've lived in Maple Falls 43 years, seen a lot of people pass through, tourists, leaf peepers, folks visiting family. Most of them leave, and we never think of them again." She smiled gently. "But every once in a while, someone comes through who feels different, like maybe they were supposed to find us, or we were supposed to find them. You have that feeling about you." "I'm just passing through," Ariana said automatically. "Maybe. Or maybe you're just scared to be anything else." Mrs. Patterson's expression was kind but knowing. "Either way, the muffins are good. Eat them while they're warm." After she left, Ariana sat by the window eating breakfast and watching Maple Falls wake up. A few cars moved along Main Street. Someone was shoveling the sidewalk in front of the hardware store. A dog bounded through the snow, trailing a laughing child. Normal life, happening at a pace that would have driven her crazy a week ago but now seemed almost appealing. She finished eating, packed her small bag, and checked out. Mrs. Patterson refused payment. "Logan already took care of it," she said. "He what?" "Paid for your room last night. Said you were his guest and guests don't pay." Mrs. Patterson handed her a paper bag. "Extra muffins for the road. And dear, whatever you decide, stay or go, make sure it's what you actually want, not just what you think you should want. Life's too short for should." Ariana walked toward the garage carrying her bag and the muffins and Mrs. Patterson's unsolicited wisdom. The morning was cold but clear, the kind of crystalline winter day that made everything look sharp and possible. Her breath clouded in front of her, and her boots crunched on snow that had been packed down by morning foot traffic. The garage door was open, warm air spilling out into the cold morning. Inside, she could hear the sound of tools and a radio playing quietly. Classic rock. Something with too much guitar. Logan was bent over the hood of a pickup truck, his back to the door, completely focused on whatever he was fixing. Ariana stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching him work. There was something almost meditative about his movements, confident but not rushed, each action purposeful. He belonged here, in this space, in this town, in this life he'd built from grief and determination. She envied that certainty, that sense of place. "You going to stand there all morning, or are you going to come in where it's warm?" She jumped slightly. He hadn't turned around, hadn't even paused in his work, but somehow he'd known she was there. "How did you—" "Your perfume. Expensive stuff stands out in a garage that usually smells like oil and old coffee." Now he did turn, straightening with a smile that did complicated things to her pulse. Morning. Morning. I hear you paid for my room. Seemed rude to rescue someone and then charge them for the aftermath. He wiped his hands on a rag. Coffee? I made a fresh pot about an hour ago. I had some, thank you. Mrs. Patterson brought breakfast. Of course she did. That woman has never met a person she didn't want to feed. Logan moved to the workbench, poured himself coffee from a battered thermos. So, you heading out? That was the plan. Was? Ariana set down her bag, suddenly unsure. I don't know. I woke up this morning thinking I should leave, get back to my normal life. But then I had breakfast and walked through town and I don't know if I want to go back to that life, or if I even know what I want. Logan studied her over the rim of his coffee cup, his expression thoughtful. You know what my dad used to say? When you're not sure about the road ahead, sit still for a minute. The right direction usually makes itself clear. How long is a minute in this metaphor? However long it takes. He set down his coffee. Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You've got a whole life in New York, important work, people depending on you, responsibilities. That matters. But you've also got something here, even if it's just the beginning of something. Maybe that matters too. I barely know you. True, but sometimes knowing someone isn't about time, it's about attention. And I think we've paid pretty close attention to each other in the last day and a half. He moved closer, his voice gentler. I'm not asking you to stay forever, Ariana. I'm just asking you to consider that maybe you don't have to leave right this second. Maybe you could stay another day. See what happens. My company. We'll survive 24 hours without you. If it can't, you've built it wrong. The words landed with uncomfortable accuracy. She had built Tech Vista to need her, to revolve around her decisions and approval, because being indispensable meant being safe. But safe from what? From being replaced? Or from having to admit she'd built a monument to her own loneliness? I don't know how to just be somewhere, she admitted. Without purpose or agenda or clear objectives, I don't know what I'd do with myself. You'd live. That's the whole point. Logan reached out, his hand finding hers with surprising naturalness. Yesterday you learned about fuel systems and ate magic pancakes and made a little girl incredibly happy just by staying for dinner. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. His hand was warm, calloused from work, completely steady while hers trembled slightly. When was the last time she'd held someone's hand? Not a professional handshake or a choreographed photo op, but actual human contact offered freely and received the same way. Maya's probably at Miss Helen's, Logan continued. She goes there most mornings when I have early calls, but she'd love to see you before you go, if you're definitely going. Are you manipulating me using your adorable daughter? Absolutely. Is it working? Despite everything, Ariana laughed. Maybe. Good. Stay for lunch at least. Give yourself permission to have one more meal in Maple Falls before you drive back to your regularly scheduled life. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen, Ariana thought, was that she'd get used to this. To kindness without calculation, to connection without contracts, to being wanted for herself rather than her utility. And then leaving would hurt in ways she'd carefully protected herself from for 15 years. But looking at Logan's patient smile and feeling his hand still holding hers, she realized she might already be past the point of safe return. Lunch, she said. I can stay for lunch. His smile widened into something that lit up his whole face. Good. I'll call Miss Helen. Tell her we're coming. Fair warning. She's going to assume this means something and probably ask when the wedding is. We've known each other 36 hours. Miss Helen believes in love at first sight. She married Mr. George 3 weeks after meeting him, and they've been together 48 years. She considers them an example everyone should follow. That's terrifying and adorable in equal measure. That's Miss Helen. Logan released her hand, but the warmth lingered. Let me finish this truck. Another hour, maybe. Then we'll go. You can wait upstairs if you want, or you can hand me tools and pretend you know what you're doing. I choose option 2. They worked together in the garage, falling into an easy rhythm that felt like something they'd done 100 times before. Logan explained what he was fixing, something about a starter motor and electrical connections Ariana only half understood. while she handed him tools and asked questions that made him smile. "You're actually interested in this," he said at one point, surprise coloring his voice. "Most people just want their car fixed. They don't care how. Most people probably weren't standing on a frozen road thinking they might die of exposure before realizing they don't actually know how anything in their life works," Ariana replied. "I spent 15 years managing systems I never bothered to understand. Maybe it's time I actually learned how things function." That's a decent philosophy, applicable to more than just cars. Are we talking about relationships now? Maybe, or maybe I'm talking about starter motors. You'll have to decide. The truck roared to life on his third attempt, and Logan pumped his fist with quiet satisfaction. "There she goes. Mrs. Henderson's going to be so relieved. This truck is older than I am, and she refuses to replace it because her husband bought it for her 40 years ago. That's romantic. That's Maple Falls. Nothing dies here if someone can fix it." They cleaned up, Logan washing his hands in the industrial sink while Ariana returned tools to their proper places. The radio shifted to a song she recognized, something about home and highways and the distance between where you are and where you're meant to be. The lyrics felt uncomfortably on target. Miss Helen's house was warm with cooking smells, and Maya's enthusiastic greeting when they arrived. The little girl launched herself at Ariana with the confidence of someone who assumed affection was mutual and reciprocated. "You stayed. Daddy said you might leave, but I told him you wouldn't because we're friends, and friends don't just leave without saying goodbye properly." Maya grabbed her hand, tugging her toward the kitchen. "Come see what we're making." The kitchen table was covered with cookie dough, flour everywhere, and what appeared to be an ambitious gingerbread construction project in progress. Miss Helen stood at the counter rolling dough with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd been baking for 6 decades. "Maya insisted we make you a house," Miss Helen explained. "Not a regular gingerbread house, a house like Logan's garage, with a little car that can go inside. The architectural challenges have been significant." Ariana looked at the partially constructed gingerbread building. Walls already assembled, a sloped roof waiting for installation, and what did appear to be a miniature car made from carefully shaped dough. Maya was watching her with anxious hope, clearly invested in this gesture's reception. "This is incredible," Ariana said, meaning it. "Maya, you made this." "Miss Helen helped with the hard parts, but I designed it. See? That's the big door where cars go in, and that's the window where Daddy's office is, and I made a little person to stand next to the car. That's supposed to be you, but it's hard to make people out of gingerbread. They mostly just look like cookies with legs." Logan appeared beside Ariana, close enough that their shoulders brushed. "She's been working on this since 7 a.m., very serious about the structural integrity of gingerbread garages." "Because buildings need to be strong, Daddy. You can't just make them pretty. They have to work." "Words to live by," Ariana murmured. They spent the next hour decorating the gingerbread garage with royal icing and strategic candy placement. Maya directed the operation with the seriousness of a general, while Miss Helen provided technical support and Logan offered commentary that made everyone laugh. Ariana found herself completely absorbed in the project, the precise application of frosting, the careful positioning of candy windows, the challenge of making a cookie building look like an actual place. When had she last done something purely for fun, for the joy of creation without concern for ROI or strategic value? She couldn't remember, which felt like its own damning commentary on her life choices. "There," Maya announced finally, stepping back to admire their work. "It's perfect, and now you'll always remember us because you can eat the garage." Which is funny because you can't actually eat real garages, but with gingerbread you can, and it will taste good instead of like oil and metal. "I don't think I can eat this," Ariana said, looking at the little gingerbread structure that represented far more than just cookies and icing. "It's too special." "You have to eat it eventually. That's the whole point of gingerbread. It's beautiful and delicious. Things can be 2 things at once, Miss Ariana. That's what makes them magic." Out of the mouths of children, Ariana thought again. Maya had just articulated something Ariana had spent her entire adult life denying, that things could be multiple truths simultaneously, that success and emptiness could coexist, that you could build an empire and still be lost, that staying could be just as brave as leaving. They ate lunch around Miss Helen's dining table, homemade soup and fresh bread, simple food made extraordinary by company and attention. Mr. George joined them, bringing stories from his morning at the hardware store where apparently the entire town was discussing the mysterious CEO who'd appeared on Christmas Eve. Joyce at the diner says you're in witness protection, Mr. George reported with a straight face. Tom at the gas station thinks you're a spy, and Mrs. Henderson believes you're an angel sent to test Logan's kindness, though she's not clear on the theological implications. Small towns, Logan said with resignation. Everyone knows everything and invents the rest. What do you think I am? Ariana asked, directing the question at the table in general. Maya answered immediately. You're our friend who needed help and then stayed because she liked us. That's not complicated. From the mouths of babes, Miss Helen said, exchanging a knowing look with her husband. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. After lunch, Logan suggested a walk through town. The afternoon was cold but beautiful, the kind of winter day that made everything look like a snow globe. They walked slowly, Logan pointing out landmarks that meant something to him, the elementary school where Maya went, the diner where he had breakfast most Saturdays, the church where his grandparents were married. It's not exciting, he said as they paused in front of the town library, a small building with Victorian architecture and Christmas wreaths on every window. No fancy restaurants or cultural events or whatever you're used to in Manhattan. It's just home. It's perfect, Ariana said, and realized she meant it. Not perfect in the polished, curated way of her New York life, but perfect in its authenticity. Real people living real lives, connected by history and choice and the simple decision to show up for each other. They ended up at a small park at the edge of town, where a frozen pond reflected the late afternoon sky. A few kids were skating, their laughter carrying clear across the ice. Logan led her to a bench someone had thoughtfully cleared of snow, and they sat together watching the skaters. Can I ask you something? Logan said after a while. Of course. Why did you really come to Vermont? Not the business reason, the real reason. Ariana was quiet for a long moment, watching a little girl skate past holding her father's hand, both of them laughing as she nearly fell. I inherited a house here. From my parents. They bought it years ago, said they were going to retire here, spend their final years in a place like this. She swallowed hard. After they died, I couldn't deal with it. So I just paid someone to maintain it and tried to forget it existed. But my lawyer kept pushing me to make a decision, sell it or keep it, but stop letting it sit empty. So I finally agreed to come sign the papers, authorize the sale, be done with it. But you haven't signed anything. No, I haven't even seen the house yet. She turned to look at him. I told myself I was being practical, that keeping it was silly when I'd never use it, that selling it made financial sense. But the truth is, signing those papers means admitting they're really gone, that the future they planned isn't going to happen, and I've been putting off that admission for 15 years. Logan reached over and took her hand again, the gesture becoming familiar. Where's the house? Somewhere on Ridgeview Road. I have the address in my briefcase. That's only about 2 miles from here. Nice area, bigger lots, some privacy. Good views of the mountains. He was quiet for a moment. Do you want to see it? Before you decide whether to sell? I don't know if I can. You can. Question is whether you want to. Ariana watched the skaters for another minute, thinking about courage and avoidance and all the ways she'd been running from herself. Maya's gingerbread philosophy echoed in her mind. Things could be two things at once. She could be terrified and brave simultaneously, could face this and still survive. Yes, she said finally. I want to see it. They walked back to the garage where Logan's truck waited like patient transportation into her past. Ariana gave him the address from her briefcase, and he nodded recognition. The old Morrison place. Beautiful property. I've driven past it a few times. Someone's been keeping it up. Yard maintenance, snow plowing, basic upkeep. I hired a local company. They send bills twice a year. I pay them without thinking about what they're actually maintaining. That's one way to handle grief. It's not handling it, it's avoiding it. Sometimes those look similar from the outside. They drove through Maple Falls and out into the countryside, where houses spread further apart and trees crowded closer to the road. Snow covered everything in white perfection, broken only by the occasional animal track or wind-blown drift. The landscape was beautiful in a way that made Ariana's chest ache. This was what her parents had seen, what they'd loved enough to buy a future in. Logan turned onto Ridgeview Road, which was barely more than a lane winding upward through evergreens. After maybe a mile, he slowed, then stopped in front of a driveway marked by stone pillars. "This is it," he said quietly. Ariana looked up the driveway at the house she'd inherited and never visited. It was exactly what her parents would have chosen. A two-story colonial with dark green shutters, a wraparound porch, and enough land around it to feel private without being isolated. Smoke rose from the chimney, which made no sense until she remembered the property company's last email mentioning something about keeping the pipes from freezing. "Someone's been heating it," Logan said, noticing the same thing. "That's good. Empty houses in Vermont winters can be disasters. Do you want to come in with me? Is that what you want?" "I don't want to do this alone," Ariana admitted, "and you're the only person I trust right now not to tell me what I should feel." Logan killed the engine. "Then let's go see your house." The front door key was in her briefcase, exactly where the lawyer had told her it would be. Ariana's hands shook slightly as she fitted it into the lock, turning until she heard the click. The door swung open on well-oiled hinges, releasing a breath of warm air that smelled like old wood and the faintest hint of her mother's favorite candles. The interior was exactly as the photos her lawyer had sent suggested: hardwood floors, exposed beams, a stone fireplace that dominated the living room. Furniture covered with protective sheets gave the space a ghostly quality, like a life paused mid-sentence. But underneath the dust covers, she could see her parents' choices: her father's leather armchair, her mother's collection of quilts, the bookshelves they'd planned to fill with retirement reading. Ariana stood in the doorway, unable to make herself step further inside. This was the life her parents had planned, the future they'd been driving toward on Christmas Eve 15 years ago, when a drunk driver decided their story ended differently. "Hey," Logan said gently, his hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" "They were going to be so happy here," Ariana whispered. "Dad was going to finally finish his novel. Mom wanted to start a garden, maybe volunteer at the local library. They had plans, real plans, not just vague someday ideas. And I told them to wait, to come see me first because my work crisis was more important than their Christmas Eve. That wasn't your fault. I know that logically. But logic doesn't help when you're standing in the house your dead parents bought for a future that never happened." She turned to look at him, tears finally spilling over. "I've been so angry, Logan, for 15 years, just furious at them for dying, at myself for letting them, at the universe for being so randomly cruel. And I built this whole life around that anger, this empire of efficiency where nothing hurt because nothing mattered enough to hurt. But standing here, I realized the anger was easier than the grief." Logan pulled her into his arms without asking permission, and Ariana collapsed into the embrace like someone who'd been holding herself upright through pure will and had finally run out. She cried against his shoulder, ugly, choking sobs that she hadn't allowed herself in years, mourning not just her parents, but all the time she'd wasted running from their memory. He didn't try to fix it or minimize it or offer platitudes about time and healing. He just held her, solid and present, letting her break apart in the safe space of his arms. Outside, the winter afternoon faded toward evening, and inside the house her parents had loved, Ariana Cole finally let herself grieve. When the tears finally subsided, she pulled back, wiping her face with her sleeve like a child. "I'm sorry," she said. "That was necessary," Logan interrupted gently, "and nothing to apologize for. Grief doesn't follow schedules or polite timelines." "I got your shirt wet. I have other shirts." Despite everything, Ariana almost smiled. "You're very calm about women having emotional breakdowns in your presence." "Maya cries a lot. Regular kid stuff, nothing serious, just feelings that need expressing. I learned early that the best response is just being there, not trying to fix it or make it stop, just being present while the feeling happens." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Same principle applies to adults. They explored the house together, room by room, Logan quiet while Ariana processed. Her parents' bedroom with the quilt her grandmother had made. The office where her father would have written, already set up with an antique desk and bookshelves. The kitchen with windows overlooking mountains that were turning pink in the sunset. In what would have been her mother's craft room, Ariana found something that made her stop breathing. A box, carefully labeled in her mother's handwriting, for Ariana's Christmas, eventually. "Logan," she said, her voice barely working. He came immediately, saw the box, understood its significance without explanation. "Do you want to open it?" "I don't know if I can." "Want me to do it?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. Logan opened the box carefully, revealing layers of tissue paper, and beneath them a quilt. Not just any quilt, a memory quilt, made from pieces of Ariana's childhood. Her baby blanket, her first communion dress, fabric from her high school theater costumes, pieces of her college sweatshirt. Her entire history, carefully preserved and stitched together by hands that had loved her. Underneath was a note in her mother's handwriting. "Dearest Ariana, by the time you read this, we'll hopefully be settled in our Vermont house, and you'll be visiting for Christmas. I made this from all the pieces of your life I saved, every fabric memory I couldn't bear to throw away. Someday you'll understand why mothers keep everything. These pieces made you who you are, just like you made us who we were meant to be. We're so proud of you, sweetheart, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are. Don't forget that in your rush to conquer the world will wait. The moments won't. All our love, always, Mom and Dad." Ariana read the note 3 times, each word landing like a small detonation in her chest. Her parents had known she was building success at the expense of life, had tried to remind her what mattered, had left this message hoping future Ariana would be ready to hear it. "They knew I was losing myself," she said to Logan. "Even before they died, they knew. Parents usually do." She picked up the quilt, feeling the weight of all those memories stitched together. "I don't know who I am anymore. The person who wore these clothes, who lived this life, she feels like someone I used to know but can't quite remember. And the person I became after they died, she's successful and powerful and completely empty." "So maybe you get to decide who you are now," Logan said. "Not who you were or who you've been, but who you want to become." "I don't know how." "Sure you do. You've been doing it since Christmas Eve, making different choices, staying instead of running, letting yourself feel something." He moved closer, his presence steadying. "Ariana, you don't have to figure out your entire life tonight. You just have to decide what you want to do next, right now, this moment." She looked around her parents' house, this monument to a future that never happened, this space holding 15 years of avoided grief. Then she looked at Logan, this man who'd appeared on a frozen road and somehow given her permission to be human again. "I want to stay," she heard herself say. "Not forever, maybe. I don't know about forever, but longer than lunch, longer than one more day. I want to stay in Maple Falls for a while and figure out who I am when I'm not running." Logan's smile was slow and genuine. "How long is a while?" "I don't know. A week? Maybe 2? Even saying it felt radical. Impossible. She'd never taken more than 3 days off in 10 years. "I'd need to make arrangements, delegate responsibilities, set up remote work protocols, tell my board I'm taking personal time. They'll think I've lost my mind." "Have you?" "Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally finding it again." She clutched the quilt her mother had made, feeling the weight of all that love and memory. "I can't sell this house. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I need to spend time here, figure out what it means, what I want it to mean." "That sounds healthy." "That sounds terrifying." "Those aren't mutually exclusive." Logan took her hand again, the gesture now familiar and grounding. "For what it's worth, I think staying is brave. I think your parents would be proud. And I think Maya's going to lose her mind with excitement when she finds out. What about you? What about me? Are you glad I'm staying?" Logan was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing small circles on her hand. "Yeah," he said finally. "I'm really glad you're staying, which probably makes me selfish because I barely know you and I have no idea what this is or where it's going. But watching you drive away tomorrow would have felt wrong, like a story ending before it actually finished. So what is this story?" "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. If you're willing." Ariana looked at him in the fading light of her parents' house. This mechanic with rough hands and a kind heart who'd pulled her from a frozen road and somehow shown her how to thaw. She thought about Maya's absolute faith that fixing was possible, Miss Helen's belief in showing up for people, her mother's note about moments that wouldn't wait. "I'm willing," she said. Logan smiled, and then, slowly, carefully, giving her every chance to pull away, he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was gentle, almost careful, like the first word of a conversation neither of them knew they'd been waiting to have. His lips were warm against hers, and he tasted like coffee and something sweet, and when he pulled back after just a few seconds, Ariana felt more alive than she had in 15 years. "Was that okay?" he asked. "That was perfect," she whispered. They stood together in her parents' house as darkness fell outside, wrapped in the possibility of something new growing from something broken. The quilt her mother made hung between them like a blessing, and through the window the first stars appeared over Vermont mountains. Ariana had come to Maple Falls to sign papers and escape Christmas. Instead, she'd found pancakes and gingerbread garages and a 7-year-old's absolute faith in fixing broken things. She'd found a mechanic who understood that some repairs took time and patience and the willingness to actually care about the work. Most importantly, she'd found the beginning of a path back to herself, the girl who'd existed before grief hardened her into armor, the woman she might become if she finally stopped running long enough to remember what she was running toward. "We should head back," Logan said eventually. "Miss Helen will worry, and Maya needs dinner and probably a lot of explanations about why you're staying. And I need to make a lot of phone calls. My assistant is going to think I've been kidnapped." "Have you?" "Maybe a little. By kindness and magic pancakes and the radical possibility that my life could be different." She folded the quilt carefully, reverently. "I'm taking this with me. And tomorrow, I'm coming back here, starting to make this house something other than a museum to what might have been. What will it be instead? I don't know yet, but maybe that's okay. Maybe not knowing is part of the point." They locked up the house and drove back to town through darkness, punctuated by Christmas lights still burning in windows. The radio played softly, something about home and highways and finding your way back to places you didn't know you'd left. Ariana watched the road unwind before them and felt, for the first time in 15 years, like she was moving toward something rather than away from it. When they pulled up to the garage, Maya was waiting on the stairs to the apartment, practically vibrating with restrained energy. "You're back. Miss Helen said you went to see a house. Did you buy a house? Are you moving here? Can we still be friends if you live somewhere else?" "Daddy, she's not leaving tomorrow, right?" Logan glanced at Ariana, letting her take this moment. "I'm not leaving tomorrow," Ariana said, climbing out of the truck. "I'm staying for a while, maybe a week or two. I need to spend some time here, figure some things out." Maya's shriek of joy probably woke half the neighborhood. She launched herself at Ariana with the full-body enthusiasm of children who haven't learned to moderate their emotions, and Ariana caught her, holding tight to this small person who'd decided they were friends and refused to accept any other outcome. "This is the best thing ever," Maya announced. "We can do so many things. I can show you my whole school and the library and the good sledding hill and where the creek freezes, and Daddy can teach you more about cars, and we can make more gingerbread, and maybe you can come to my art show in January because I'm going to put my drawings in the town hall, and—" "Maya, breathe," Logan said, but he was smiling. "I don't need to breathe, I need to plan. Miss Ariana is staying, and that means we have time for everything." They went upstairs to the apartment where Ariana finally turned on her phone and watched it explode with messages. Her assistant, her board members, key investors, all wondering where she was, what was happening, whether the company needed emergency protocols. She typed one message to her assistant. "Taking 2 weeks personal leave starting immediately. You have full operational authority. I trust your judgment. We'll check email once daily. No calls unless absolute emergency. This is not negotiable." Then she sent a longer message to her board chair. "Need personal time to address family matters. First real vacation in 10 years. Company is stable and well-positioned. Leadership team can handle everything. We'll provide weekly updates. Please respect this decision." Finally, she silenced her phone and put it away. "Just like that?" Logan asked, watching her. "Just like that. If the company can't survive 2 weeks without me, I failed as a leader anyway." Time to find out. That evening, they had dinner in the tiny apartment. Spaghetti that Maya helped make, garlic bread from the bakery down the street, salad that was mostly iceberg lettuce, because that was what Maya would actually eat. They sat around the small table, knees bumping, passing plates and sharing stories, and Ariana felt more at home than she had in the penthouse she'd spent millions decorating. After dinner, Maya insisted on showing her every drawing she'd made in the past month, explaining each one with detailed backstory. Logan did dishes, glancing back occasionally with expressions that made Ariana's heart do complicated gymnastics. When Maya finally yawned hugely, he carried her to bed despite her protests that she wasn't tired. Ariana stood at the window looking out at Main Street, at the Christmas lights and the snow and the simple beauty of a town that had accidentally saved her. "She likes you," Logan said, returning from Maya's room. "In case that wasn't obvious from the enthusiastic tackle and comprehensive life planning, I like her too. She's extraordinary." "She is, but so are you." He moved to stand beside her at the window. "I know this is fast and probably crazy and not how normal people do things. You've been here 2 days. We've known each other basically no time at all. But it feels right," Ariana finished. "Impossible and right at the same time." "Yeah." He turned to face her fully. "I don't know where this goes. I don't know if you'll stay 2 weeks or 2 months, or if you'll wake up tomorrow and realize you've made a terrible mistake. But I know I want to find out. And I know Maya wants to find out. And I think, maybe, you want to find out too." "I do," Ariana said. "I really do." They stood together at the window as Maple Falls settled into nighttime quiet. Tomorrow, Ariana would start the complicated work of building a different kind of life, one with space for magic pancakes and gingerbread architecture and feelings she'd spent 15 years avoiding. She'd figure out what to do with her parents' house, what it meant to grieve properly instead of running, how to balance the company she'd built with the life she wanted to live. But tonight, she was just here, present, alive, and finally, ready to stop running long enough to see what she'd been running toward. Logan's hand found hers in the darkness, and somewhere in the apartment, Maya slept peacefully, secure in her father's love, and the certainty that broken things could always be fixed if you cared enough to do the work. Ariana squeezed Logan's hand and thought about her mother's note. The world will wait, the moments won't. For 15 years, she'd let the moments pass while she conquered the world. Not anymore. The days that followed blurred together in the best possible way, each one feeling less like borrowed time and more like life actually being lived. Ariana moved from Mrs. Patterson's bed and breakfast to her parents' house on the 3rd day, though she spent most of her waking hours either at the garage or exploring Maple Falls with Maya as her enthusiastic guide. The house on Ridgeview Road slowly transformed from museum to home. Ariana uncovered furniture, opened windows despite the cold to let fresh air chase away 15 years of stagnation, and found herself touching things her parents had touched, books they'd shelved, dishes they'd chosen, the reading glasses her father had left on the bedside table, like he'd just stepped out for a moment. Logan came by on the 4th evening, bringing tools and practical help. He fixed a leaky faucet in the kitchen, replaced light bulbs that had burned out, and checked the furnace with the same careful attention he gave to engines. Maya trailed behind him, narrating his every action like a nature documentary. And here we see the wild mechanic in his natural habitat, fixing things that are broken, because that's what wild mechanics do. Notice how he uses the wrench with expert precision, turning it exactly the right amount. Not too much, not too little, but just right like Goldilocks. "Maya," Logan said, voice muffled from under the sink. "I'm not a wild mechanic." "You are if I'm documenting you. That's how documentaries work, Daddy. I decide what you are." Ariana laughed from her position at the kitchen table, where she was supposedly working on her laptop but mostly watching them. "She's not wrong. You do have a very wildlife documentary quality right now. Betrayed by both of you. This is what I get for being helpful." "You get our love and appreciation," Maya said solemnly. "That's better than money." "Is it, though?" "Daddy, you're not supposed to care about money. You're supposed to care about fixing things and making people happy and pancakes." Logan emerged from under the sink, his hair sticking up at odd angles and a smudge of something dark on his cheek. "I care about all those things, but I also care about keeping the lights on and feeding you vegetables even though you think they're punishment food. Vegetables are punishment food. That's science. That's literally not science. Miss Ariana, will you tell him that science is whatever I say it is? Ariana held up her hands in surrender. I'm staying out of this. You two have clearly been having this argument since she learned the word science. Since she was 5, Logan confirmed, and I'm losing ground daily. They ordered pizza for dinner because Ariana's kitchen was still being organized, and nobody felt like cooking. They ate sitting on the living room floor because the dining table was covered with papers, property documents, her parents' old letters, photographs Ariana had been slowly going through. Maya found a picture of Ariana as a child, maybe 8 years old, wearing a ridiculous hat and grinning at the camera. You look happy, Maya observed. More happy than you looked when Daddy found you on the road. I was happy then, Ariana said quietly. That was before I forgot how. But you're remembering now, right? Because you smile more. I've been counting. You smiled 4 times at breakfast this morning, and that's not even counting little smiles, just the big ones that make your whole face different. Logan caught Ariana's eye across the pizza box, his expression soft. Maya's very observant about smiles. It's her superpower. I think everyone needs more smiles, Maya said seriously. The world would be better if people smiled as much as they breathed. That should be a rule. A rule about smiling? Yes, like you have to smile at least 20 times a day or you don't get dessert. That would make people try harder to find happy things. What if someone's having a bad day? Ariana asked gently. What if they're sad and smiling feels too hard? Maya considered this with the gravity of a philosopher. Then other people should smile at them extra so they have enough smiles even when they can't make their own. That's what friends do. They share smiles when someone runs out. Ariana felt something catch in her throat. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. Daddy says I was born wise and just had to grow into it. She took another bite of pizza, chewing thoughtfully. Are you going to live here forever now, in this house? I don't know about forever, but maybe for a while longer than I planned. How much longer? Maya, Logan said gently. That's Ariana's decision. We don't pressure people about their plans. I'm not pressuring. I'm just asking because if she's staying, I need to know what activities to plan. You can't plan activities without a timeline, Daddy. That's just basic project management. Where did you learn about project management? Miss Henderson talks about it at book club. She says her husband never understands timeline requirements for home improvements. I listen very carefully to adult conversations because that's how you learn important things. Logan looked at Ariana with amused resignation. She's going to run a company someday and terrify everyone with her competence. I'm already terrifying, Maya said matter-of-factly. Miss Helen says I have presence. That means people pay attention when I talk. After dinner, Maya fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in the quilt Ariana's mother had made, clutching Rudolph and looking impossibly small. Logan carried her to his truck with practiced ease, moving carefully to avoid waking her. Ariana walked them out into the cold night, stars bright overhead in ways Manhattan never allowed. Thank you for today, she said as Logan settled Maya into the back seat. For the help with the house, for the company, for sharing her. She loves you, you know. In that instant, complete way kids love when they decide someone's theirs. He closed the truck door quietly. It's a gift, but it's also a responsibility. If you're going to leave eventually, she needs to know. She needs to prepare. I'm not planning to leave. Not soon, anyway. Ariana wrapped her arms around herself against the cold. But you're right to worry. I could get called back to New York. There could be an emergency at the company. I don't know what I'm doing here, Logan. I just know I'm not ready to stop doing it. He moved closer, his breath visible in the cold air between them. That's honest. I appreciate honest. Are you scared that I'll hurt her? Terrified, but also hopeful, which is worse. If I was just scared, I could protect us both by keeping distance. But hope makes you vulnerable. His hand found her face, thumb brushing her cheek. You make me hopeful, Ariana. You and your fancy car and your complete inability to understand small-town life and the way you look at Maya like she's teaching you a language you forgot you knew. She is teaching me. You both are. What language? how to be human again, how to care about things that don't have quarterly projections, how to exist without constantly achieving. She leaned into his touch. I'm probably going to be terrible at it. I'm going to have relapses where I work 16-hour days and forget to eat and obsess over metrics that don't actually matter. Probably, but I'm going to make you pancakes anyway, and Maya's going to drag you outside to look at interesting rocks, and Miss Helen's going to show up with unsolicited advice. We're persistent like that. I'm counting on it. He kissed her then, longer and deeper than that first careful kiss in her parents' house. She wrapped her arms around his neck, and he pulled her closer. And for a few minutes, the cold and the complications and the uncertainty all faded into the simple fact of two people finding each other against impossible odds. When they finally separated, both breathing harder, Logan rested his forehead against hers. "Come to dinner tomorrow," he said. "Real dinner, just the three of us. I'll cook something that isn't pancakes or pizza. Maya will probably insist on formal place settings because she's going through a phase about proper table arrangements." "I'd love that." "Good. Because I'm running out of excuses to see you every day, and eventually I'm just going to have to admit I want to see you every day." "I want to see you every day too." He smiled, soft and genuine. "Then we're on the same page. That's a good start." Ariana stood in her driveway watching his taillights disappear down Ridgeview Road, feeling more alive and more terrified than she'd felt in years. This thing between them was real and fragile, and growing faster than either of them had planned. She could already feel how much it would hurt if it ended badly, which meant she was already in too deep to protect herself. But maybe, she thought, protection was overrated. Maybe being vulnerable was the whole point. The next morning brought an unexpected complication in the form of a phone call from her board chair, Richard Chen, whose carefully neutral tone immediately put Ariana on edge. "We need to talk about your leave of absence," he said without preamble. 2 weeks was already pushing it, but now we're hearing rumors you might extend. Is that true? Ariana stood in her kitchen, her parents' kitchen, her kitchen now, maybe, looking out at mountains she was learning to love. "I haven't decided yet." "You haven't decided. Ariana, you're the CEO of a $3 billion company. You don't get to not decide about your availability." "I'm taking personal time that I've earned through 10 years of 70-hour weeks. The company is stable. The leadership team is competent. What's the actual problem?" Richard was quiet for a moment, and Ariana could picture him in his corner office, probably looking at spreadsheets that showed exactly how little her absence was affecting daily operations. "The problem is optics. You disappeared the day after Christmas with minimal explanation. Investors are asking questions. The board wants answers." "Tell them I'm dealing with a family matter." "What family matter? You don't have family." The words landed like a slap, true and cruel in equal measure. "I had parents. They left me a house. I'm figuring out what to do with it." "That's family enough." "This is about that Vermont property? Ariana, sell it or don't sell it, but do it on a weekend. You don't need 2 weeks in the middle of winter to sign papers." "It's not about the papers." She turned away from the window, pacing the length of the kitchen. "Richard, I've given this company everything for a decade. I'm asking for a few weeks to figure some things out. Why is that so threatening?" "Because you're acting out of character. The Ariana Cole I know doesn't take spontaneous leave, doesn't go silent on communications, doesn't prioritize personal matters over business. You're the most reliable person in the organization, and suddenly you're unreliable. That makes people nervous. Maybe the Ariana Cole you know needs to change." Silence on the other end, heavy with implication. Then, "Change is fine in personal life. In professional life, especially at your level, change looks like instability. Instability affects stock prices. So this is about money. This is about responsibility. You built something extraordinary. Don't undermine it with erratic behavior." After Richard hung up, after she'd promised nothing except to think about his concerns and provide a timeline soon, Ariana sat at her kitchen table feeling the weight of expectation settle back on her shoulders. She'd spent 10 years building herself into someone indispensable, someone whose entire identity was wrapped up in corporate success. Walking away from that, even temporarily, meant walking away from the person she'd constructed so carefully. But What if that person had been a cage disguised as an achievement? She was still sitting there an hour later when Logan's truck pulled into her driveway. He knocked once, then let himself in with the casualness of someone who'd been given implicit permission to be part of her space. "You look like you've been thinking too hard," he observed, setting a paper bag on the counter. "I brought muffins from the bakery. Miss Carson says hello and wants to know if you're single because her nephew is visiting next month." "I'm not interested in Miss Carson's nephew. I told her that. She said she had to ask anyway because hope springs eternal." Small-town matchmaking is aggressive and mostly unconcerned with actual compatibility. He sat across from her, studying her face. "What happened?" "My board chair called. Wants me back in New York. Says I'm being irresponsible and erratic." "Are you?" "By their standards?" "Yes. By normal human standards? I'm taking a completely reasonable amount of time off to deal with personal issues." She pulled a muffin from the bag, breaking it apart without eating. "The problem is I've spent so long being their version of responsible that I don't know how to be any other kind." Logan was quiet for a moment, drinking the coffee he'd apparently also brought. "Can I tell you something about responsibility?" "Please." "When Sarah died, everyone told me I was being irresponsible by staying in Maple Falls. Said I should move to a city with better opportunities, make more money, give Maya access to better schools and resources. They had charts and statistics proving I was failing her by choosing a small town." He leaned back in his chair. "But Maya needed stability more than opportunity. She needed community more than resources. And I needed to be somewhere I could grieve without having to perform competence for strangers. So I stayed, and everyone said it was the wrong choice. Was it? Look at Maya, happy, confident, surrounded by people who love her. She knows every person in this town by name. She's never been afraid to be exactly who she is because nobody here expects her to be anything else." He smiled. "That's not failure. That's success on different terms. Your board chair wouldn't understand that logic. Your board chair probably measures success in profit margins. But you're a human being, not a quarterly report. You get to define your own success." Ariana ate some of the muffin, thinking about definitions and measurements and all the ways she'd let other people decide what her life should look like. What if I can't do both? What if staying here means losing the company? Then you have to decide which loss you can live with. The answer should have been obvious. She'd spent 10 years building Tech Vista. It was her creation, her achievement, her proof of worth. But sitting in her parents' kitchen with Logan, watching her with patient understanding, eating a muffin from a small-town bakery where everyone apparently knew everyone's business, Ariana realized the calculation had changed. Losing the company would hurt. But losing this chance to be someone other than the Ice Queen, this possibility of connection and presence and actual life, that might destroy her. "I'm going to extend my leave," she said, the decision crystallizing as she spoke. "Another week at least, maybe 2. If the board can't handle that, they can replace me." "That's brave. That's terrifying, but maybe you're right. Maybe the best things are." Logan reached across the table, lacing his fingers through hers. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you're staying, selfish as that might be." "It's not selfish, it's honest." She squeezed his hand. "And I'm glad you want me to stay." That evening's dinner at Logan's apartment was exactly what he'd promised. A real meal, carefully prepared, with Maya insisting on cloth napkins and proper fork placement. She'd made place cards with everyone's names written in careful letters, and she'd picked flowers from Miss Helen's greenhouse to serve as a centerpiece. "This is a special dinner," Maya explained seriously, "because Miss Ariana has been here almost a whole week, and that means we're celebrating. You have to celebrate important milestones. Miss Helen taught me that." They ate roasted chicken and vegetables that Maya claimed to hate, but ate anyway, and they talked about everything and nothing. Maya's upcoming school project about Vermont wildlife, Logan's plans to update the garage's computer system, Ariana's slowly forming ideas about what to do with her parents' house. "You could rent it out," Logan suggested. "Vacation rental, maybe. Maple Falls gets decent tourism in fall and winter." "Or you could live in it," Maya said. "That's what houses are for. Living, not renting to strangers who might not appreciate the quilt room." "The quilt room?" "The room with all your mom's sewing stuff. I decided it's the quilt room because that's where the quilt came from, and rooms should be named after their most important things. After dinner, Maya decreed that they should play board games, which turned into a fierce competition involving a game about building railways across America. Maya took it very seriously, forming alliances and breaking them with ruthless efficiency. You can't trust anyone in this game, she told Ariana solemnly. Not even Daddy, especially not Daddy. He looks all nice and helpful, but then he blocks your route to Chicago and acts like it's just strategy. It is just strategy. It's betrayal, Daddy. There's a difference. Watching them bicker good-naturedly, Ariana felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness she hadn't known she was missing. This was what family looked like when it wasn't performing or optimizing or achieving, just people being together, sharing space and time, and complicated board games that ended in debate about rules. Around 9, Maya started yawning between turns, her usual energy flagging. Logan called bedtime despite her protests, and Ariana found herself listening to their nighttime routine through the thin walls, teeth brushing, story reading, the soft murmur of Logan's voice doing character impressions that made Maya giggle. When he emerged 20 minutes later, he looked tired but content. "She wants you to tuck her in too," he said. "Fair warning, she's probably going to ask you deep philosophical questions. It's her bedtime stalling technique." Ariana went to Maya's small room, where the little girl was already under her covers with Rudolph positioned carefully beside her. The walls were covered with her drawings, animals and houses, and abstract designs that showed real artistic promise. "Hi," Maya said sleepily. "Will you sit for a minute?" Ariana sat on the edge of the bed. "What's up, Butterfly?" Maya's face lit up at the nickname. "You called me Butterfly. That's Daddy's special name." "Sorry, I didn't mean to—" "No, it's good. It means you love me like he does." Maya reached out and took Ariana's hand. "Do you love me?" The question was so direct, so innocent, so impossibly large. Ariana looked at this 7-year-old who decided they were friends on Christmas morning and had never wavered in that conviction, who counted smiles and made gingerbread garages and believed in the fundamental fixability of broken things. "Yes," Ariana said quietly. "I love you." "Good. Because I love you too. I loved you when Daddy brought you home on Christmas Eve, and I love you more now because now I know you better. That's how love works. It starts, and then it grows if you take care of it." "Who taught you that?" "Nobody taught me. I just know it because it's true. Like how I know that purple is the best color, and that carrots are punishment food, and that you're supposed to be here with us." "Supposed to be?" "Some people are meant to find each other, like puzzle pieces. You were lost on the road, and Daddy found you, and now you fit with us. That's not accident, that's purpose." Ariana felt tears prick her eyes. "You're very wise, Maya." "I know. Daddy says it's because I pay attention to important things instead of worrying about dumb stuff." She yawned hugely. "Will you still be here tomorrow?" "Yes." "And the day after?" "Yes." "And forever?" "I don't know about forever, but I'm not leaving yet. I promise." "Okay, that's good enough for now." Maya's eyes were already closing. "Good night, Miss Ariana. I'm glad you're not a Christmas ghost that disappears when the holiday ends." "Me too, Butterfly. Me too." Ariana returned to the living room to find Logan cleaning up dinner dishes. She picked up a towel and started drying without being asked, falling into an easy rhythm beside him. "She asked if I love her," Ariana said after a moment. Logan glanced at her. "What did you say?" "The truth. That I do." "And how do you feel about that?" "Terrified. Grateful. Completely out of my depth." She set down a dried plate carefully. "I never wanted children, told myself I was too busy, too focused, that motherhood didn't fit my life plan. But standing in her room just now, I realized it wasn't about not wanting kids. It was about being too afraid to want anything I might lose." "Loving people is risky," Logan agreed. "No guarantee of returns, high probability of pain, completely irrational from an investment standpoint." "You sound like my board chair." "Your board chair sounds like someone who's never actually loved anything more than profit margins." He finished the last dish and turned to face her fully. "Here's what I know. Yes, loving Maya is risky. She could get hurt, you could leave, life could throw any number of complications at us. But the alternative is her growing up thinking she's not worth the risk, and I refuse to teach her that lesson. So you're just brave enough to love her despite the risk? I'm her father. I don't get a choice about loving her. That's not optional. But choosing to let you into her life? Into our life? That's a choice, and it's one I'm making consciously, even though it scares me. He moved closer. Because I think you're worth the risk, and I think we might be worth the risk to you. Ariana reached up and kissed him, pouring into it all the things she didn't have words for yet, gratitude and desire and the terrifying beginning of something that looked dangerously like love. He responded immediately, his hands finding her waist, pulling her closer until there was no space between them. They ended up on the couch, tangled together in ways that were both innocent and charged with possibility. Logan's hand traced patterns on her back, and Ariana discovered that the sound he made when she kissed his neck was quickly becoming her favorite sound in the world. Stay tonight, he murmured against her hair. Just stay. Sleep here. Maya would love waking up to you being here, and honestly, so would I. Are you sure? I'm sure. You can take my bed, I'll sleep out here. Or, Ariana interrupted, we could both take your bed. Like adults who trust each other not to make things complicated before we're ready. Logan pulled back to look at her, searching her face. You trust me that much? I trust you completely, which is probably insane given we've known each other a week, but nothing about this situation has been sane. They lay in Logan's bed that night, fully clothed but close enough to share warmth, talking in whispers about everything and nothing. He told her about Sarah, about their short marriage and her death, and the years of learning to be both parents. She told him about building her company, about the deals that had almost destroyed her, about the moment she'd realized she was respected but not actually liked. Do you want to be liked? He asked. I want to be known, actually known, not just the performance I give investors and employees. I want someone to see the parts of me that aren't successful or impressive and want me anyway. I see those parts, Logan said quietly. I saw them on Christmas Eve when your car died and you were too proud to be properly scared. I saw them when you cried in your parents' house. I see them every time you look at Maya like she's teaching you a language you forgot. His hand found hers in the darkness. And I want you anyway, maybe especially because of those parts. Ariana turned toward him, close enough to feel his breath. I'm going to mess this up eventually. I'm going to work too much or say the wrong thing or revert to old patterns. I'm not practiced at being vulnerable. Nobody's practiced at it. That's why they call it vulnerable. There's no safe way to do it. He kissed her forehead gently. But I'm patient, and Maya's got enough faith for all of us. And Maple Falls is really good at teaching people how to be human again. You'll be okay. We'll be okay, she corrected. Yeah, we'll be okay. They fell asleep like that, holding each other in the darkness while snow began to fall outside, and the town settled into peaceful silence. When Ariana woke in the early morning to find Maya standing beside the bed, eyes wide with delight, she experienced a moment of perfect clarity. You stayed, Maya whispered, as though Ariana had accomplished something miraculous. You really stayed. I really stayed, Ariana confirmed. This is the best thing ever. Now we can have breakfast together like a real family. She bounced on her toes. Can we make pancakes, please? Daddy's magic pancakes with extra blueberries? Logan stirred beside Ariana, cracking one eye open. Maya, it's 6 a.m. That's morning. Morning is pancake time. Morning is sleeping time until at least 7. But Miss Ariana is here. We can't waste staying over time sleeping. Logan looked at Ariana with resignation and affection. This is what you're signing up for. Early mornings, relentless enthusiasm, and negotiation about every single life decision. I'll make the pancakes, Ariana offered. Give you 30 more minutes of sleep. You don't have to. I want to. Maya can supervise and tell me all the secrets of proper pancake construction. In the tiny kitchen, with Maya standing on a step stool providing detailed instructions learned from years of watching her father, Ariana made pancakes that were almost as good as Logan's. They were slightly uneven and maybe a little overdone on one side, but Maya pronounced them perfectly imperfect, which is better than regular perfect because it means someone cared enough to try. They ate breakfast together as the sun rose over Maple Falls, painting the snow-covered town in shades of pink and gold. Logan stumbled out eventually, drawn by the smell of coffee, and found them at the table covered in flour and laughing about Ariana's first attempt at flipping, which had ended with batter on the ceiling. "I feel like I missed something important," he said, looking at the splattered ceiling. "You missed Miss Ariana learning that pancakes need gentle flipping, not aggressive flipping," Maya said. "But it's okay because failure is how we learn, and also it was really funny." They spent the day together, all three of them, no work interruptions, no agenda beyond being present. Logan had blocked off the day in his garage schedule, something he apparently rarely did, and Maya declared it a special occasion adventure day. The adventure consisted of sledding on the town hill, where Maya taught Ariana the proper technique for maximum speed, which seemed to involve a lot of screaming and very little actual technique. They had lunch at the diner, where the waitress knew everyone's order before they said it, and didn't even try to hide her curiosity about Ariana's continued presence. "You're still here," she observed, topping off coffee cups. "Joyce at the pharmacy said you were definitely leaving after Christmas. I won $20 betting you'd stay." "People are betting on my life choices?" "Honey, this is Maple Falls. We bet on everything. Makes winters interesting." She winked at Logan. "And speaking of interesting, you two are cute together. About time someone caught this one's attention." After she left, Maya looked between them with interest. "Are you dating? Is that what this is?" Logan nearly choked on his coffee. "Maya, because if you're dating, that's good. I approve. Miss Helen says you have to approve your parents' dating choices, or they might pick someone terrible." "Miss Helen says a lot of things," Logan managed. "And she's usually right," Maya countered. "So are you dating or not? I need to know for my family tree project at school. Miss Patterson says we can draw any family we want, and I want to draw our family, but I need to know if Miss Ariana goes in the family tree or the friends circle." Ariana and Logan looked at each other across the diner table, both of them struggling not to laugh at the 7-year-old's relentless logic. "Yes," Logan said finally. "We're dating. Ariana goes in the family tree." Maya pumped her fist victoriously. "I knew it! Miss Helen owes me ice cream. I bet her you were dating before New Year's, and she said it would take until Valentine's Day. I won! You bet Miss Helen about our relationship?" "Everyone's betting, Daddy. I told you. It makes winter interesting." That evening, after they dropped Maya at Miss Helen's for her weekly sleepover date where apparently gambling about adult relationships was considered appropriate conversation, Logan drove Ariana back to her house. They sat in his truck in her driveway, neither quite ready to say goodnight. "Your daughter just told the entire town we're dating," Ariana said. "Yep. By tomorrow morning, everyone within a 20-mile radius will know. Miss Helen has an extensive communication network." "Does that bother you?" "Does it bother you?" I asked first. Logan turned to face her, his expression serious. "No, it doesn't bother me. I like you, Ariana. More than like you, if I'm being honest. Having the whole town know it, that's just making it official." He paused. "But you're the one with a public profile. You're the one who might care about headlines or reputation or whatever CEO things matter in your world." Ariana thought about Richard's phone call, about optics and investor confidence, and all the things that were supposed to matter more than her personal happiness. Then she thought about Maya's family tree, and Logan's patient kindness, and the way she'd learned to make pancakes this morning while covered in flour and laughing harder than she had in years. "I don't care," she said, and meant it. "Let them write headlines. Let my board clutch their pearls. I'm dating a mechanic in a town of 800 people, and I've never been happier." Logan's smile was worth every complicated conversation she'd have to have with her board. He leaned across the console and kissed her thoroughly, and Ariana thought that this, right here, right now, was worth protecting, even if it meant walking away from everything else. "Come inside," she said when they finally separated. "Help me figure out what to do with my mom's quilt room, and maybe stay for a while. I'm not ready for you to leave yet." "Maya's not home till tomorrow afternoon." "I know." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Ariana, I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I just want more time, more conversation, More of whatever this is we're building. No pressure, no expectations, just stay. He stayed. They spent the evening sorting through her mother's craft supplies, finding treasures and memories in equal measure. Fabric scraps with stories attached, patterns her mother had saved, photographs tucked between instruction books. Logan was patient with her tears, present with her laughter, and completely comfortable with the mess of emotion that came with excavating 15 years of avoided grief. Later, they sat on her couch drinking the wine he'd brought from the truck, talking about futures instead of pasts for once. "What do you want?" he asked. "If you could have anything, not what you think you should want, but what you actually want, what would that look like?" Ariana was quiet for a long moment, really thinking about it. "I want to wake up and not immediately check my phone. I want to make pancakes badly and laugh about it. I want to know my neighbors and have them know me. I want to do work that matters but doesn't consume me. I want to be part of Maya's life, watch her grow up, maybe even be someone she trusts enough to come to with problems." She turned to look at him. "I want you, this. Whatever we're building, I want to protect it instead of sacrificing it for achievements that don't actually fill the empty spaces." "That's a good list. What about you? What do you want?" Logan set down his wine, considering. "I want Maya to keep believing in magic for as long as possible. I want to wake up next to someone who actually wants to be there. I want Sunday mornings with no emergencies and someone to share coffee with while Maya destroys the kitchen making breakfast. I want to stop being so careful all the time, stop protecting myself from possibility because I'm afraid of loss." He reached for her hand. "I want to see where this goes with you, even though it's scary and complicated and probably a terrible idea by conventional wisdom." Conventional wisdom is overrated. Agreed. They kissed again, slower this time, tasting possibility and wine in equal measure. When Logan pulled back, his expression was tender and serious. "I should probably go home," he said, though he didn't move. "Probably. Maya would kill me if I stayed over without her supervision. Probably. And we're taking this slow, being responsible adults. Definitely." Neither of them moved. "Or," Logan said carefully, "I could stay. Just sleeping. Like last night. Because I'm not ready to leave yet either." "I'd like that." They fell asleep in her bed. Her parents' bed, hers now, wrapped around each other like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. And when Ariana woke in the middle of the night to find Logan still there, his breathing steady beside her, she felt something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Safe. Not safe from the world or its complications or the reality that they were building something fragile in the middle of their messy lives. But safe to be herself, imperfect and emotional and still figuring things out, with someone who saw all of it and stayed anyway. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and steady, covering everything in quiet promise. Inside, two people who'd found each other by accident held tight to something that was starting to feel a lot like purpose. The call that changed everything came on a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after Christmas. Ariana was in her kitchen making coffee, actual coffee, not the rushed grab-and-go she'd survived on for years, when her phone lit up with Richard Chen's name. She almost didn't answer, but something in the insistent buzzing suggested this wasn't a conversation she could postpone. "We have a problem," Richard said without greeting. "Microdyne is launching a hostile takeover. They're offering 30% above market value, and 3 of our board members are already leaning toward acceptance." Ariana felt the world tilt sideways. Microdyne was their biggest competitor, notorious for acquiring companies and gutting them for patents and market share. If they succeeded, everything she'd built would be dismantled within 6 months. Thousands of employees would lose their jobs. A decade of work would vanish like it had never mattered. When did this start? Offer came in yesterday. They're giving us 72 hours to respond. Ariana, you need to come back, now. We can fight this, but not without you. She looked out the window at the mountains, at the snow falling gentle as a promise, at the life she'd been carefully constructing from the ruins of her old one. Logan was at the garage. Maya was at school, probably working on her family tree project. Tonight they were supposed to have dinner together, the 3 of them, and Maya wanted to make something special she'd learned about in cooking class. "I'll be there tomorrow," she heard herself say. "Tomorrow. Ariana, this is happening now, Shet. Tomorrow," she repeated firmly. "I need today to arrange things here, but I'll be on the first flight out in the morning." After she hung up, Ariana stood in her kitchen feeling like she was being torn in half. This was the crisis she'd been waiting for, the emergency that would prove she couldn't actually have both lives, that choosing one meant losing the other. The universe was forcing her hand with perfect cruelty. She called Logan, her hands shaking slightly as she dialed. "Hey," he answered, warmth in his voice. "You calling to tell me you burned breakfast again? Because I warned you about that burner running hot. Logan, I have to go back to New York." Silence on the other end, heavy with understanding. Then, "When?" "Tomorrow morning. There's a hostile takeover attempt. If I don't fight it, I lose the company." "How long?" "I don't know, a few days, maybe a week. However long it takes to secure enough board votes and mount a defense." She sank into a chair. "I'm so sorry. I know we had plans and Maya was so excited about dinner tonight. Ariana, breathe. It's okay. It's not okay. I promised her I wasn't leaving. I promised you I was staying, and now I'm breaking both those promises." "You're not breaking anything. You're handling a work emergency. That's different than choosing to leave." His voice was steady, grounding. "Come to the garage when you can. We'll figure this out together." She drove to Wells Auto Repair an hour later, her mind already spinning with strategy and defense plans and all the corporate warfare tactics she'd have to deploy. Logan was under a car when she arrived, but he rolled out immediately when he heard her footsteps. "Tell me what you need," he said, standing and wiping his hands. "I need you to understand that I have to do this. The company is 10 years of my life and 3,000 people's livelihoods. I can't just let it die because I'm in Vermont learning to be human again." "I know that. But I also need you to know that I'm coming back. This isn't me running away or choosing that life over this one. I'm coming back as soon as I can." Logan moved closer, his expression serious but not angry. "I believe you. But Ariana, you need to be honest with yourself about something." "What?" "If fighting for that company means becoming the person you were before, working 20-hour days, sacrificing everything for success, losing yourself in the achievement, is it worth coming back to? Will there be anything left of the version of you who learned to make pancakes and cry in her parents' house?" The question hit like a physical blow because he was right. She could feel it already, the old patterns activating, the armor sliding back into place, the Ice Queen preparing to do what she did best. Win at any cost, even if the cost was her own humanity. "I don't know," she admitted. "I don't know if I can fight this battle and stay the person I'm becoming, but I have to try. Those employees depend on me." "Then try. Fight like hell. But promise me something? Anything. Promise me you'll remember why you're fighting, not just to win or prove something, but because you actually care about those people and what you built together. Keep that human part alive, even in the corporate warfare. Don't let the battle turn you back into someone who measures success in quarterly reports instead of pancakes." She kissed him then, desperate and grateful and terrified all at once. "I love you," she said against his lips, the words escaping before she could think about timing or appropriateness. "I know it's too soon and too complicated, but I love you, and I need you to know that before I go." Logan pulled back just enough to see her face, his eyes searching hers. "I love you too. Have since about day 3, if I'm being honest. Maybe day 2. He smiled softly. "Definitely by the time you helped Maya make the gingerbread garage." "That's insane. We barely knew each other." "Yeah, but sometimes knowing isn't about time." He kissed her forehead. "Go do what you need to do. Maya and I will be here when you get back. However long it takes." Telling Maya was harder. The little girl listened with unusual quiet as Ariana explained about the emergency and New York and having to leave for a while. Her face crumpled in a way that broke Ariana's heart into approximately 1,000,000 pieces. "But you promised," Maya whispered. "You said you weren't leaving." "I know, Butterfly, and I'm so sorry. But this is just for a little while. I'm coming back." That's what people say when they're not coming back. I've read books. The person always says, just for a little while, and then they're gone forever. Ariana knelt down to Maya's level, taking her small hands. "Listen to me. I am coming back. Because you're in my family tree now, remember? And family doesn't disappear just because things get complicated. Promise? I promise. And until I get back, we can video call every day. You can show me your drawings and tell me about school, and I'll tell you about boring business meetings and how much I miss your dad's pancakes. Will you be gone for my art show? The art show. Ariana had completely forgotten. The school's winter exhibition was in 5 days, and Maya had been planning to display her gingerbread garage drawings. She'd been so excited about showing Ariana her work in an official setting. When is it exactly? Friday afternoon, but it's okay if you miss it. You have important work things. Maya's voice was small, trying so hard to be understanding. Ariana made a calculation in her head. If she worked fast, got the board votes secured quickly, maybe she could make it back in time. It was probably impossible, definitely impractical, but looking at Maya's face, she knew she had to try. I'll do everything I can to be there, she said. I can't promise because I don't know how long this crisis will take. But Maya, I want to be there. That matters to me. Really? Really, you matter to me. This, she gestured between them, matters more than any business deal. Maya threw her arms around Ariana's neck, holding tight. I'll miss you so much. I'll miss you too. But I'll call tomorrow night, okay? Right after your bedtime story. That evening, Ariana packed her small bag while Logan sat on her bed watching. They didn't talk much. Everything important had already been said. But the silence was comfortable, weighted with understanding rather than tension. You know what scares me most? Logan said eventually. What? That you'll get back there and remember how good you are at that life. How much easier it is to be powerful and controlled than vulnerable and human. That you'll realize Maple Falls was just a nice break, but New York is where you actually belong. Ariana stopped packing and sat beside him. That scares me too. Because part of me does miss it. The adrenaline of closing deals, the satisfaction of winning, the clarity of problems that have definite solutions. Corporate warfare is simple compared to actual life, so why come back here? Because simple isn't the same as meaningful, and I've spent enough years winning battles that didn't actually matter. She took his hand. You and Maya matter. This matters. I'm not throwing that away for the illusion of control. They made love that night, slow and tender, and tinged with the desperation of temporary goodbye. Afterward, lying tangled together in her bed, Logan traced patterns on her shoulder, and Ariana tried to memorize everything about this moment. The weight of him beside her, the sound of his breathing, the way the moonlight through the window painted everything in shades of silver and blue. Come back to us, he whispered into her hair. Always, she promised. New York hit her like a wall of noise and motion and aggressive ambition. Ariana stepped off the plane into LaGuardia and immediately felt the old self sliding back into place, the confident stride, the armor-plated expression, the Ice Queen preparing for battle. By the time her car service dropped her at her penthouse, she was already mentally 3 steps into strategy. Her apartment felt like a museum to someone else's life. Everything was exactly as she'd left it, sleek, expensive, utterly devoid of personality. No paper star ornaments, no Maya's drawings on the refrigerator, no signs that an actual human lived here. Just surfaces and status symbols and the hollow echo of success. She didn't have time to dwell on it. Richard had scheduled an emergency board meeting for that afternoon, and she had 3 hours to prepare her defense. Ariana changed into her armor, a tailored suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, heels that added 3 inches, and an attitude of invincibility, makeup that transformed her into the CEO Forbes had photographed. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. This wasn't the person who'd made misshapen pancakes or cried in her parents' house, or learned that love was scarier than any hostile takeover. This was the Ice Queen, and she'd been summoned back to do what Ice Queens did best, freeze everything until she won. The boardroom was exactly as she remembered. Massive table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan like a conquering view. Her board members filed in with varying expressions of relief and concern. Richard looked exhausted. 3 members wouldn't meet her eyes, which told her exactly who was considering Microdyne's offer. Thank you for coming back, Richard said, though his tone suggested he'd never doubted she would. We have a lot to cover. For the next 4 hours, Ariana did what she did best. She presented analysis, outlined strategy, reminded the board exactly why Tech Vista was worth fighting for. She was articulate, commanding, absolutely in control. The Ice Queen at her finest. But something was different this time. Instead of just talking about market position and shareholder value, she found herself talking about the people. The engineers who'd worked nights to solve impossible problems, the client services team who'd built actual relationships with customers, the culture they'd created where innovation mattered more than politics. Microdyne doesn't care about any of that, she said, looking at the three wavering board members. They'll keep the patents and the contracts and fire everyone else. 3,000 people will lose their jobs so we can make a quick profit on the sale. Is that really what we built this company to do? We built this company to create shareholder value, one of the wavering members said. This offer does that. In the short term, sure. But what about 5 years from now, when Microdyne has destroyed everything we built, and those patents are worthless because they weren't supported by the people who created them? What about 10 years from now, when Tech Vista is just a footnote in someone else's acquisition history? The room was quiet, board members exchanging glances. What are you proposing? Richard asked. That we fight. That we mount a defense, find a white knight investor if we need to, do whatever it takes to maintain independence. Not because I'm too proud to sell, but because what we built is worth more than Microdyne's hostile offer. It wasn't a complete victory. Board votes and hostile takeovers never were simple. But by the end of the meeting, she'd shifted 2 of the 3 wavering members back to her side. One more vote, and they could reject the offer outright. That evening, exhausted and running on pure adrenaline, Ariana video called Logan and Maya. Maya's face appeared on screen, lighting up with joy. Miss Ariana, you're on the phone but also on the tablet. That's like magic. Technology magic, Ariana agreed, her heart aching at the sight of that gap-toothed smile. How was school? Good. We learned about Vermont history, and I told everyone about you and how you're my family now. And Tommy Richardson said, you can't just add people to your family. And I said, yes, you can, because family is about love, not DNA. And Miss Patterson said, I was absolutely right. Miss Patterson is very wise. I know, she said I could display 5 drawings at the art show instead of just 3 because I have a lot of feelings that need expressing through art. That's good, right? That's wonderful, Butterfly. Logan appeared on screen behind Maya, his smile soft. Hey, how was day 1 of corporate warfare? Exhausting, productive. I think I might actually pull this off. She didn't mention how being back in CEO mode felt both familiar and foreign now, like wearing clothes that no longer fit quite right. They talked for 20 minutes, Maya sharing every detail of her day, Logan offering quiet support through the screen, Ariana soaking up the sight of them like oxygen. When Maya finally went to brush her teeth, Logan moved closer to the camera. You look tired, he observed. I am tired, but I can't stop yet. I have 3 investor calls tonight and a strategy session at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Ariana, I know I'm slipping back into old patterns, but I have to finish this. Just a few more days, and then I can come back. Will you, though? Or will there be another crisis and another until you forget why you left? The question stung because it was fair. How many times had she promised herself she'd take time off after just one more deal, one more quarter, one more achievement? How many times had she let work consume her because it was easier than facing everything else? I don't know how to do this, she admitted. How to be both people. The CEO who saves companies and the woman who makes pancakes with your daughter. They don't fit together. Maybe they don't have to fit. Maybe you just have to decide which one is real and which one is performance. After the call ended, Ariana sat in her sterile penthouse thinking about real versus performance. For 10 years, being the Ice Queen had felt real, the truest version of herself, forged in grief and ambition. But now, having tasted what it felt like to be vulnerable and human and actually connected to other people, the CEO version felt like armor she was tired of carrying. The next 3 days were brutal. Ariana worked 18-hour days, met with investors, negotiated with potential white knight buyers, and generally did everything possible to save Tech Vista from Microdyne's predatory offer. She was brilliant at it. Even she could admit that. Every meeting was a victory. Every call brought her closer to securing the votes she needed. But she was also miserable. She ate meals at her desk, slept 4 hours a night, and completely abandoned anything resembling self-care. The version of herself who'd learned to be present in Maple Falls disappeared under the weight of corporate necessity. On Thursday evening, Richard found her in her office at 9 p.m., still working. "Go home," he said. "You've done everything you can. The final board vote is tomorrow afternoon. You need rest." "I need to review the financial projections one more time. Ariana." He sat across from her, his expression unusually gentle. "I've known you 10 years. I've watched you build this company through pure force of will. You're the most driven person I've ever met, and that's made us all very wealthy. But looking at you right now, you're killing yourself." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You look like you've aged 5 years in 3 days. And more importantly, you look unhappy. Actually unhappy, not just stressed or tired. Like you're doing something that's destroying you from the inside out." Ariana set down the projections. "What's your point?" "My point is that maybe Microdyne's offer isn't the worst thing in the world. You could sell, make everyone rich, and walk away. Start over. Actually live your life instead of just working it." "You're saying we should take the offer, after everything?" "I'm saying you should consider what you actually want. Not what you think you should want, but what would make you happy." He stood, moving toward the door. "The board will support you either way. Fight or sell. But make sure you're choosing for the right reasons." After he left, Ariana pulled out her phone and looked at the photos she'd taken in Maple Falls. Maya covered in flour, laughing. Logan in his garage, smiling at her over a car hood. The gingerbread garage they'd built together. Her parents' house covered in snow, looking like home instead of a memorial. Then she looked around her office, awards on the walls, accolades from industry publications, proof of success by every conventional measure. All of it hollow compared to a 7-year-old's laughter and a mechanic's patient kindness. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Good luck tomorrow. Daddy says you're going to do great. Also, I finished my drawing of our family, and you're in the middle, which is the most important place. Love you." Attached was a photo of Maya's family tree project. True to her word, she'd drawn 3 figures holding hands: Logan, Maya, and Ariana. Above them, written in careful letters, "My family who found each other." Ariana stared at that drawing for a long time, tears blurring her vision. This child had claimed her as family with absolute certainty, had made space for her in their life, had trusted that love was enough to overcome logistics and complications and the geographic distance between Vermont and Manhattan. When was the last time anyone had wanted her that unconditionally? The final board vote was scheduled for 2 p.m. on Friday. Ariana woke at 5 a.m., reviewed her materials one last time, and dressed in her most powerful suit. She looked like someone who won hostile takeover fights, someone who commanded respect and delivered results. She looked like someone she wasn't sure she wanted to be anymore. The morning dragged with last-minute calls and strategy sessions. By noon, Ariana was confident she had the votes to reject Microdyne's offer. Victory was in sight. She'd save the company, prove her worth, and validate every sacrifice she'd made over the past decade. At 1 p.m., her assistant knocked on her office door. "Your car is ready to take you to the board meeting." Ariana looked at her computer screen, where she'd pulled up information about flights to Vermont. The last flight that would get her to Maple Falls in time for Maya's art show left at 3 p.m. If she took it, she'd miss the board vote, miss the culmination of everything she'd worked for this week. But she'd make it in time to see Maya's drawings, to keep the promise she'd made to a 7-year-old who believed in family and fixing and the fundamental reliability of the people you loved. She thought about her mother's note. The world will wait. The moments won't. She thought about Logan asking which version of herself was real and which was performance. She thought about Maya's drawing, with Ariana right in the middle because that's where she belonged. "Cancel the car," Ariana said quietly. "What?" "Cancel the car. And tell Richard I need to see him, now." Richard arrived 5 minutes later, confusion evident on his face. "The board meeting is in an hour." "I know, and I'm not going." "Ariana, this is what we've been working toward all week." "Sit down, Richard. I need to tell you something, and I need you to actually hear me." He sat, looking concerned. "You were right yesterday," Ariana said. "I've been killing myself this week. Not because saving the company requires it, but because that's the only way I know how to operate. Full speed, no balance, everything sacrificed for success. And it's made us wealthy, but it's made me miserable. Where's this going? I want to sell to Microdyne. Richard's eyes went wide. What? You spent all week fighting. I spent all week proving I could fight. That's different. But Richard, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to be the ice queen who measures success in quarterly reports. I want to be someone who makes pancakes and keeps promises to 7-year-olds and actually shows up for the moments that matter. You're serious. Completely serious. Sell to Microdyne with conditions. They have to keep the core team, maintain our culture, honor our client relationships, negotiate hard on those terms. But sell. She stood, moving toward the window. And I'm stepping down as CEO, effective immediately. Ariana, you can't just... I can. I've earned it. 10 years of my life, Richard. 10 years of 70-hour weeks and sacrificed relationships and treating my humanity like an inconvenience. I've earned the right to walk away. She turned to face him. You'll be an excellent CEO. You know the company, the culture, the vision. You can protect what we built better than I can right now because you're not trying to also remember how to be human. Richard was quiet for a long moment. This is about Vermont, isn't it? About that mechanic and his daughter. It's about remembering I'm more than just my job title, that success without connection is just expensive loneliness, that, her voice cracked slightly, that I deserve to be loved for who I am, not what I achieve. They love you? This mechanic and his kid? Yes, completely, unconditionally, despite knowing all my broken parts. They love me. She smiled through tears. And I love them. Enough to walk away from all this, if that's what it takes to keep them. Richard stood, moving toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. You built something extraordinary here, but you can't build a life. That requires different skills. I'm learning them, slowly, badly, but I'm learning. Then go. I'll handle the board. We'll negotiate the best terms possible with Microdyne, and I'll make sure your legacy here is protected. Thank you. For everything. For believing in me, for building this with me, for being honest when I needed it. Thank you for teaching me that success is worth pursuing. Even if you're now teaching me, it's also worth walking away from. Ariana made the 3 p.m. flight with 20 minutes to spare. She'd changed in the airport bathroom, trading her power suit for jeans and the sweater Logan had liked, wiping away the armor-plated makeup until she looked like herself again. The woman who'd learned to cry and laugh and love in a small Vermont town that had accidentally saved her life. The flight felt eternal and instantaneous at once. She landed in Burlington at 5 p.m., rented a car, and drove toward Maple Falls like her life depended on it. Maya's art show started at 6. She had 1 hour to make good on her promise. She walked into Maple Falls Elementary School at exactly 6:02, slightly breathless and completely determined. The hallway was decorated with children's artwork, and she followed the sound of voices to the multipurpose room where the exhibition was being held. Maya saw her first. The little girl was standing beside her display, 5 drawings carefully mounted and labeled, talking to Miss Helen about artistic technique. Her eyes went wide, her mouth formed a perfect O of surprise, and then she was running. Miss Ariana, you came! You really came! Ariana caught her, lifting her up despite the fact that Maya was getting too big for this, holding her tight while the little girl wrapped arms and legs around her like a determined octopus. I promised, didn't I? But Daddy said you might not make it because work was really important, and I said that was okay because I understood. But secretly, I really hoped you'd be here. The words tumbled out in a rush. You're here for my art show. This is the best day ever. Logan appeared in the crowd, his face registering shock and joy in equal measure. He made his way over, his eyes questioning. You're here, he said, like he couldn't quite believe it. I'm here, and I'm staying. She set Maya down, but kept hold of her hand. I have so much to tell you, but first, Butterfly, show me your artwork. That's what I came for. Maya dragged her to the display, explaining each drawing with detailed backstory. The gingerbread garage, naturally, a portrait of her father fixing a car, a landscape of Maple Falls in winter, a drawing of hands holding, representing family, Maya explained seriously. And finally, the family tree project, with 3 figures in the center and words written above. My family who found each other. This one is my favorite, Maya said, pointing to the family tree, because it's true. We found each other, and that makes us family. Miss Patterson says chosen family is just as real as born family, maybe even more real because you picked each other on purpose. It's beautiful, Ariana said, her voice thick with emotion. They're all beautiful. Maya, you're so talented. I know, Daddy says I get it from my mom. She used to paint. I don't remember her, but Daddy says she would have loved my art. Maya looked up at her with sudden seriousness. Do you think she would have loved you too? Logan made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Maya, because I think she would have. I think she would have liked that Daddy found someone who makes him happy, and who helps him fix cars and who stays even when work is important. Ariana knelt down to Maya's level, not caring that she was crying in a crowded elementary school. I think she would have loved how amazing you are, and how incredible your dad is. And I really hope, she'd be glad I found you both. They stayed at the art show for 2 hours, Maya introducing Ariana to every teacher and classmate, proudly declaring that this is Miss Ariana, she's my family, and she came all the way from New York just to see my drawings. Logan held Ariana's hand the entire time, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, not saying much but saying everything through that constant touch. After the show, they walked to the diner for dinner, the 3 of them, just like they'd planned a week ago. Maya chattered about which drawing got the most compliments and whether she should consider a career in art or engineering or possibly both. Logan kept looking at Ariana like he was afraid she might vanish if he blinked. Finally, after Maya was thoroughly distracted by her coloring sheet and crayons, he leaned close and whispered, You said you're staying. What does that mean? It means I sold the company. Or rather, I'm letting them sell it to Microdyne with good terms for the employees, and I resigned as CEO. Logan's eyes went wide. You what? I walked away. From all of it. The job, the title, the life I built in New York. Because none of it was real. It was just expensive armor protecting me from actually living. She squeezed his hand. But this is real. You and Maya and magic pancakes and small-town art shows. This is the life I want, if you'll have me. If we'll have you? Ariana, I've been hoping you'd stay since the day we met. I just didn't think it was possible. Turns out most things are possible if you're willing to sacrifice the right things. And I'm done sacrificing what actually matters for things that just look impressive. Maya looked up from her coloring. Are you talking about grown-up stuff? Very grown-up stuff, Logan confirmed. Is Miss Ariana staying forever now? Logan looked at Ariana, his expression asking permission. She nodded. Yes, Butterfly, Miss Ariana is staying. Maya's shriek of joy made everyone in the diner turn to look, but nobody seemed surprised. This was Maple Falls, where everyone already knew everyone's business, and apparently half the town had been betting on this exact outcome. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ariana and Logan sat on the couch in his apartment talking about logistics and futures and all the complicated details of actually building a life together. I have enough from the sale to live comfortably without working, Ariana explained, but I think I want to work. Different work, maybe consulting or helping small businesses with strategy. Something that uses my skills but doesn't consume my soul. What about your parents' house? I want to keep it, live in it, make it the home they planned but never got to have. She paused. Would you and Maya ever consider moving there? It's bigger than this apartment, and there's room for a proper garage, and Maya could have her own art studio. Logan kissed her, stopping the nervous rambling. When he pulled back, he was smiling. Are you asking us to move in with you? Eventually, not tomorrow, but someday, when it feels right, when Maya's ready, when we've figured out how this actually works day to day. I think Maya's been ready since Christmas Eve. She's already mentally redecorated the quilt room. He traced her jawline gently. And I'm ready whenever you are. This thing between us, it's fast and probably crazy, but it's also the most right thing I've felt since Sarah died. I'm not interested in wasting time being cautious when we could be actually living. I love you, Ariana said again, the words easier this time. I love you too. Both versions of you. The CEO who conquers companies and the woman who makes terrible pancakes. You don't have to choose between them. You just have to let them both exist. They fell asleep on the couch that night, wrapped around each other while snow fell outside and Maple Falls settled into peaceful quiet. When Maya woke them at 6 a.m. demanding breakfast and details about what staying forever actually meant logistically, they made pancakes together. All three of them crowded into the tiny kitchen, laughing when Ariana inevitably got batter on the ceiling again. The weeks that followed were full of adjustment and discovery. Ariana moved into her parents' house permanently, slowly transforming it from memorial to home. She painted walls, arranged furniture, and filled the space with signs of actual living. Maya's drawings on the refrigerator, Logan's tools in the garage, photographs of the three of them scattered throughout. She started consulting work, helping small businesses in Vermont with strategy and systems, using her corporate expertise for companies that actually needed it, rather than billion-dollar enterprises that could hire anyone. The work was satisfying in ways Tech Vista never had been. She could see direct results, build actual relationships with clients, and finish work at reasonable hours. Logan spent more nights at her house than his apartment, and Maya started leaving clothes and toys in what they'd started calling her room. They were building a life together slowly, carefully, making space for each other's needs and boundaries while also moving steadily towards something permanent. On Valentine's Day, Logan proposed. They were making dinner together, something they did most nights now, the three of them navigating the kitchen like a well-practiced dance. Maya was setting the table with her characteristic precision when Logan suddenly got down on one knee. "Wait, Daddy, that's not... Oh my gosh, are you..." Maya dropped the fork she was holding with a clatter. "Ariana Cole," Logan said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "I know this is fast. I know we've only known each other 2 months. But I also know I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you pancakes and fixing your car and watching you teach Maya terrible art techniques." "They're not terrible techniques, Daddy. They're experimental." "Sorry, experimental techniques." He smiled, never taking his eyes off Ariana. "Will you marry me? Will you be Maya's official family and my forever person and the one who keeps us both honest about what actually matters?" Ariana looked at this man who'd pulled her from a frozen road and taught her how to thaw, at his daughter, who'd claimed her as family with absolute certainty, at the life they were building from broken pieces and deliberate choices. "Yes," she said through tears that were entirely happy. "Absolutely yes." Maya cheered so loudly the neighbors probably heard, then demanded to see the ring and immediately started planning the wedding. "Can I be the flower girl? Obviously I'm the flower girl, right? And can we have the wedding here in the house with the mountains in the background? And can we serve pancakes at the reception because that's our family food?" They got married in June, in the backyard of the house Ariana's parents had bought for a future they never got to see. Miss Helen officiated, Mr. George played piano, and half of Maple Falls showed up to witness the CEO and the mechanic who'd found each other on Christmas Eve. Maya was indeed the flower girl, wearing a dress she'd helped design and walking down the aisle with Rudolph tucked under her arm, because Rudolph is family too. She took her role very seriously, even giving a small speech about how family isn't just who you're born to, but who you choose and who chooses you back. Ariana wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit, and carried wildflowers from the garden she'd planted in the spring. Logan wore a suit but kept his work boots on, claiming they were good luck. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises about showing up, being present, choosing each other even when it was complicated. When the officiant declared them married, Maya whooped louder than anyone, and the entire gathering erupted in applause. At the reception, they did serve pancakes, Logan's famous recipe, made by volunteers from town who'd insisted on helping. There was dancing and laughter and toast that made everyone cry, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Ariana looked around at this life she'd accidentally stumbled into and felt completely, perfectly at peace. That night, after the guests had left and Maya had finally fallen asleep on the couch, still wearing her flower girl dress, Logan and Ariana stood on the porch, looking at the stars. "Happy?" he asked. "Incredibly. Impossibly. I didn't know happiness could feel like this, not like achievement or victory, just contentment, like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "You are. We both are." He pulled her close. Thank you for breaking down on Christmas Eve. Second best thing that ever happened to me. Second best? First was Maya, but you're a very close second. Ariana laughed, the sound carrying across the yard and into the Vermont night. Somewhere in the house, Maya slept peacefully, secure in her certainty that broken things could always be fixed if you cared enough to do the work. And standing there with her husband, Ariana understood what the little girl had known all along. Love wasn't about perfection or planning or having everything figured out. It was about showing up, being present, and trusting that some things were worth the risk of breaking. She'd been broken on a frozen road 2 months ago, stranded and lost and running from a grief she'd carried for 15 years. But Logan had stopped, had helped, had seen past her armor to the person underneath who'd forgotten how to be human. And Maya had claimed her as family with the absolute faith of children who believe in magic and fixing and the fundamental reliability of the people you love. They'd repaired more than just her car that Christmas Eve. They'd repaired her heart, her hope, her ability to believe that maybe, just maybe, the best achievements weren't the ones you built alone, but the ones you built together. Years later, when people asked Ariana about her career change, about leaving a billion-dollar company to consult for small businesses in Vermont, she'd smile and say it was the best decision she ever made. Not because the work was easier or more profitable, but because she'd finally figured out what success actually meant. It meant waking up next to someone who loved her for who she was, not what she achieved. It meant making pancakes with a daughter who called her mom without hesitation or legal paperwork. It meant living in a house her parents had chosen, honoring their memory by actually living instead of just achieving. It meant being human again, messy and emotional and vulnerable and alive. And every Christmas Eve, no matter how many years passed, Ariana would drive out to Route 100 where her car had broken down. She'd stand in the cold for a few minutes, looking at the spot where her old life ended and her new one began. And she'd whisper thank you to the universe for that mechanical failure that had saved her life. Then she'd drive home to Logan and Maya and the family they'd built from broken pieces and deliberate choices, and she'd make terrible pancakes and laugh about it. And she'd remember that the greatest repair job wasn't on an engine. It was on a heart that had forgotten how to feel, fixed by a mechanic who understood that some things couldn't be rushed, a daughter who believed in magic, and a small town that taught her the difference between achieving and actually living. Christmas didn't end that night on Route 100. It began. And every day since had been the gift she'd been too afraid to want until it was offered freely, wrapped in flannel and gingerbread, and the absolute certainty that love, real, messy, human love, was worth every risk and every sacrifice and every moment of vulnerable, terrifying, beautiful uncertainty. She'd come to Vermont to sign papers and sell a house. Instead, she'd found home, found family, found herself, and discovered that sometimes the greatest success is knowing when to stop building empires and start building a life. The end.